the starting lineup of your favorite show. At producer, 5'11" from Blanchester, the Cow Killer, Casey McCollister. And comic engineer, standing at 4'8", the pride of the West Side, Elliot Rearing. And your host, weighing 150 pounds, soaking wet, from Hamilton, Ohio, Ace Fowler.
Just when you think you got it all figured out, that you know how to do everything, that you've done this time and time and time again, somehow, some way, technology and life will smack you right in the face. And that's what just happened over the last 4 or 5 minutes. YouTube, apparently, I don't know if they decided to take the go live button off the internet, but that's what they did. Casey's over here frantically hitting buttons, and just magically, somehow, some way, we don't know how, we are live on YouTube, which is a very nice thing because this show is presented by United Dairy Farmers, and they would not be pleased if we did not go live. And we are on Off the Bench, presented by, like I just mentioned, United Dairy Farmers. I'm Trace Fowler, joined as always with Casey, Elliot, Lindsay, and Reed. And you know what? There's a whole host of topics we can get into today. But before we do that, I do want to give some kudos. Now, I know the folks on the radio, Dayton, 1410 Wing AM, from 1 to 3, probably have no clue about the internets of the world. You know what's funny about the radio situation is I almost look at it as two completely different audiences. And there's no really disrespect to one audience versus the next. It's just that when I'm thinking about the radio, I'm literally thinking of folks that probably have no clue what we do at all in regards to the internet and the fact that we're on YouTube, and also that we did baseball games yesterday. But for those that didn't know, we were at baseball games for a very long time yesterday. I just wanted to get a quick reaction. I've not talked to Elliot on purpose today because I wanted to see exactly how he felt about standing on the third base camera for a game that was, I didn't even get to see the end of it. It was at the time I had left, 23-18. How are you feeling over there, the third base line during that game, Elliot?
We don't have a partnership with Wright State. Is that correct? We do not?
Not at this moment.
So what needs to happen at Wright State is somebody needs to get in contact with the president of the university, and the baseball program needs to be stripped. Because what I witnessed yesterday, I have never seen in my entire life so many runs and so many hard hit balls. The game didn't end. I'm still, like, my brain, I woke up this morning, I'm like, I'm still there. I'm still there. I'm still going pitch by pitch and out by out, and every single batter is up. And I love Prasco Park, love them to death. But I think they were put in a box with the music they play in between batters, because I kept hearing this one song over and over and over and over and over again, and it's the song that they play right after, like, once a couple base runners get on. They're like, some guy comes on and is like, we're going to do some damage. We're going to do some damage. And it happened legitimately, I'm not kidding, 75 times. 75 times. But other than that, it was great. I thought I had a good shout out to Miami baseball. They won 76-49. But it was great. It was a great day. I had a lot of fun.
1410 Wing AM, I do know that they are, there's a partnership there with Wright State. Now, I do want to defend Wright State a little bit. They were the
program in the state.
You could arguably say that you could have a very, very good argument that they've been the best program in the state of Ohio over the last 20 years. I don't think many would debate you. Maybe you could argue Kent State had a run in the sun for a minute. But the crazy thing that I was thinking yesterday as we did the Joe Nuxall Classic was that of the 4 teams that were there, certainly UC was the biggest brand of them all. But of all the big brands in the state of Ohio, and Ohio State being number 1, they've never been, in my lifetime, the best baseball program in this state.
They, one time, I think, made it to a super regional, Ohio State did. But for the most part, it's always been Kent State and Wright State that are the best team. Wright State yesterday had a kid hit 4 home runs. Sammy Sass, shout out Sammy Sass.
That's right.
4 home runs. They had another kid who had 2 home runs, a triple and a single. They had another kid who had a home run, 2 doubles and a single, and they lost 23-22. That's got to be a first in baseball history. Got to be a first. We saw baseball history yesterday.
23-22.
I
mean, if you want some offense, no place other to look than midweek baseball in college.
Right.
Now, clearly the second game, UC won 5-2 over the Xavier Musketeers. I was thinking too. I wanted to say this, and I know this doesn't make great radio right now, and that's a-okay. But that you guys did a really, really good job. This was probably the first time that I can remember of doing stuff at Chatterbox that was very important. That I was pretty much almost, I don't want to say all the way removed, but close to being all the way removed. And I know that Reed doesn't want this. Casey doesn't want this, and maybe Elliot doesn't want this, but you guys did a very, very good job.
Thank you so much.
Thanks,
I jokingly said that this took years off my life. I was overly stressed, probably more stressed than I needed to be for a silly little baseball game, but
Right.
it was. We're glad we got out on the other side, and it went all well, and it was because we had a lot of good help.
Yeah, and I would also say if you can harken back to the days when we first started this, and you remember when Trace used to run around with his head cut off and was acting like a crazy person 80% of the time, I give myself 20% of grace.
You would yell every time.
Yeah, every time we did a broadcast, there would be at some point Trace yelling. And you know what, though? We got through it. We found a way, and it all started where, Elliot?
Before we continue, I wanted to give one quick shout out too, because it
Please.
started with the iPads.
Thank you.
But I want to give one quick shout out to my guy Jeremiah. Now,
yes.
for those of you who don't know Jeremiah was stuck up in a scissor lift, and he was up in the sky for that first game. The first game took roughly
It was 4 hours and 26 minutes was the official
4 hours and 26 minutes. He was up there without a chair. He kept texting me throughout the game. I didn't tell anybody this, but he kept texting me throughout the game. I'd like to try to read some of those now to you.
Please.
Because he was in peril yesterday. He kept the first text he sent me was, "What is this? This isn't baseball, right?" And then I kept having to respond, "Yeah, Jay, sometimes this happens." And this was like the fourth inning when I thought there was a chance it would be like 3.5 hours because I knew it was going to go long. And he texted me, "Are we going to get a break in between this game and the next game? Because my legs are dying, man." So he was sitting up there. He was sitting up there for a long time. This game makes my stomach hurt. No joke. I don't know how I'm going to power through this second game. This is an absolute abomination. And we kept texting throughout the entirety. And this poor cat was stuck up there, stuck in his tree, and quite literally nobody could help him because he's up, 20 feet in the air. Eventually, I believe Casey made the executive decision because I was struggling too a little bit. Towards the seventh inning of that game, I lost the will to live.
We got everyone chairs.
Casey sent over some chairs to us, and that made it a whole lot better. But shout out to Jeremiah. We didn't shout out him. He deserves a quick shout out.
Every time, so he was in this scissor lift, and every movement he would make would shake our center field camera. So he had no chair, and I had texted him. I was like, "Hey, man, this is 4 hours of the game." I was like, "Hey, man, I know this sucks. I know you're struggling up there, but can you stop walking around?
Yeah.
Can you just stay still?"
I don't know how hard like it is to stand exactly still for 4.5 hours, but it's damn near impossible because I was trying my best not to move at all, and it was killing me. So I kept having to do squats and stretching out everything. But yeah, it was good. It was fun.
Yeah. No, I listen. By all accounts, we did some things that we haven't done in the past. Did the on-field interviews, did the hits in the stands, and we've four-person broadcast. We've obviously done that before, but we've probably not done it at the magnitude or I don't say the expectation level that we were trying to accomplish. But all in all, I guess pat on the back to you guys. I'm sure the folks that are in Dayton listening to 1410 Wing AM right now probably would like to listen to some sports talk, which we will get into that. Why? Because it's a very serious sports talk show. Nice job, Elliot. We
Headlines
did that
in
great.
sports.
Yes.
The Brewers, they beat the Reds 9-5 last night. What a game by me not to miss. It looked disgusting. Frankie Montas, he went 5 innings, gave up 5 runs. Only 3 of them earned, and he struck out 4. Carson Spiers, he came in, and he knew his role. His role was to just give the bullpen a break. He threw 81 pitches in 4 innings of relief, gave up 7 hits, 4 runs. Only 3 of those were earned, and he struck out a batter. So shout out to Carson Spiers. On the positive side, because this is a positive sports talk show, CES had 2 hits. He's been struggling lately. It's good to see him get on base, and he did cross the plate both times he got on base. Fraley, 2 for 4 with an RBI base rip. Elly continues to stay hot at the plate with a base hit and an RBI. And Spencer Steer is now the major league leader in runs batted in. He went 2 for 3 with a walk. So there are some struggles, but a lot of positives to take away as well. Around the league, the Cubs last night, that was after we got home from work. Cubs beat the Padres 5-1. Nationals, they take the series against the Giants after winning 5-3 last night. Rays beat the Angels. Diamondbacks take care of the Rockies. And the Athletics, on the back of Shea Langeliers, I believe that's how you pronounce it, he had 3 hits, all of them home runs, and all 4 RBIs. So it's the Oakland Shea Langeliers as they beat the Rangers, the World Series champs, last night. The White Sox, they beat the Guardians, but Yoan Moncada had to leave the game after running out of ground ball. I don't know what's going on with the White Sox training staff, but they get injured a whole lot more than the Reds do. Their big players go down every single year. Pirates, they lost to the Tigers. That helps the Reds out a little bit. That now makes the Reds 2.5 games out of first place in the NL Central. NBA, the Bucks, they beat the Celtics 104-91. The story of the game is Giannis's injury. An MRI revealed there is no structural damage to the Achilles, which is good news, but he will be out for some or a short period of time or a long period of time. We don't know, but there's no structural damage to Giannis. And also, this is the part of NBA where it's just like I don't care because the Celtics have already clinched the 1 seed, so they're just there having fun. I guess they're just playing fun little basketball, and who knows how long these guys will play. Again, I'm a responsible gambler, but I had a bet on the Mavericks last night, and I had a certain player to get 40 points. He finished, I think, with 39, and they just pull him with 10 minutes left when you're up by 17. So it's tough to see in the NBA, but go ahead. Great product. Coach Cal, he makes it official. Left a very emotional video to the Kentucky faithful who pushed him out of town, and he is on his way to Arkansas. Shout out to Arkansas. Shout out to Coach Cal. Hopefully he wins a championship there and proves it to all the Kentucky haters.
Shout out to the resolution in the first video, too.
Yeah.
If you know you're a real one if you've seen the first video.
Oh yeah, that was.
Did you get the? Well, you were the third baseline, so you didn't get a chance to see the first video. But I'm sure you got on the internet and you got to see what it looked like.
Yeah.
I mean, that's so preposterous. Sometimes I wonder in life, like you have these folks that are working for what are billion-dollar organizations, and they go to put out a message like that.
Yeah.
Who hit send? I would love to know the person that hit send.
That was tough.
Because you can't possibly see that video. And I don't know what means necessary they receive that video. It's almost like they just said, hey, shoot it to me in an email. I'll download it. And then they put it on the internet for the world to see. And when I tell you there was 12 pixels in that video, there was all but 12.
That's tough to see. Also, who do you think has, real quick, and just to bounce off that, who do you think is going to go on a bigger victory tour if they're successful? Coach Cal winning a championship with Arkansas, or the Kentucky faithful having a good season with whatever coach they bring in, whether it be Scott Drew or whoever, Billy Donovan?
It does feel like it would be fun to root for Arkansas now.
I know.
I'm
going to be rooting for Arkansas all the way.
There, but I don't know. I feel like the Kentucky faithful had a good reason as to why they wanted him to go, though. For being honest. It doesn't feel like feel like he got left on. He didn't get left out to dry here. He knew the situation. He failed for all intents and purposes the last 4 or 5 years, and it is what it is.
Different programs have different expectations, and obviously their expectations a whole lot farther than the first round against Oakland in St. Peter's. So I understand 100%. But saying that, I do think it became at some point towards the end a little bit of disrespect to what Coach Cal's done. I would say nobody
That's
maybe.
not bad.
Maybe what?
That's not that's fair. I said that's fair.
Yeah, Coach Cal had what do you have? Nearly 100 NBA players from his 20 years there in Kentucky. How many years he was there? So yeah, I'm not going to sit in here and say Coach Cal's not a good coach, and I think that's where kind of the water got a little murky.
It felt like a mature breakup. Like it felt like both parties were like, you know what, we had some good days in the sun. We spent a lot of time together. But this just isn't going to work anymore. I don't think this marriage is good anymore.
Cal would have stayed because it's a $30 million buyout. They weren't buying.
He would have been there, right?
Yeah, they weren't buying him out. So
listen, when you're 2-8 over your last 10 tournament games between the SEC and the NCAA tournament, and you're favored in all of them, it's not good. That's just not a good run. But Coach Cal will do wonders at Arkansas. I really do believe that.
All right, speaking of breakups, we're going to talk a little bit about maybe what it is for the Kentucky fan base and what they should expect going forward. And we'll get into the Reds. We got to buy or sell. Franchise tag. The Bengals find themselves in uncharted territory with the franchise tag this NFL offseason. And then we'll talk a little Masters because I like golf. I hope you like golf as well. And if you don't, maybe we can come up with some bets to make you like golf this weekend. That and more on 1410 Wing AM. All right, we are back. Better than ever on 1410 Wing AM. We just had a discussion. You brought up a good point there, Reed, that made me just think of something. You said it was a mature breakup.
Yeah.
You know, there's times in life where you get around some people that you otherwise didn't know. You start to learn about their situations, and then you're like, wow, that's actually very unique. There are some folks, not many, but there are some folks that do have a divorce. They have children involved, and somehow they kind of make it a very, very civil thing. They do Thanksgivings together. They do Christmases together with their other significant other. And now how that all works out, sometimes I do scratch my head and I wonder. But you know what? I have a lot of respect for those types of people. And maybe you could convince yourself that that's what the Kentucky Wildcat fan base in Cal could possibly have. I don't know. We shall find out. The first time Cal comes in Rupp Arena, it'll be interesting because I seen on X yesterday that there were a lot of Kentucky fans that were saying some very nice things about Cal. Because for all intents and purposes, he did bring them a national championship. And for folks that are of my age, per se, quite honestly, that's the only championship that they would, I guess, be able to somewhat enjoy or remember. Now, clearly back in the Patino days, I would have been young enough to where I was alive. But how much do you really enjoy a championship when you're 5, 6, 7 years old? So I think for a good majority of the fan base, there's a lot of respect for Cal. He was there for 15 years. That's kind of hard to believe if we're being honest.
Yeah.
15 years Cal was at Kentucky. And you know what? There was ups, there was downs. But I'll be interested to see how he's received by that fan base moving forward because there were peaks and there were valleys. Shout out Nick Crawl. But my only thing about it is when he comes back into Rupp Arena, does he get booed or not? I'll leave that as the final topic. Do you think that he gets booed?
So it kind of depends how the breakup. I think we all can agree it was a mature breakup now, right? Like both parties were like, yeah, this kind of wasn't working. Let's separate, see what happens. Now, if Arkansas is a top 5 program next year,
yes,
and Kentucky is struggling,
Yeah.
then it's not going to be good. Then you get a little bit of jealousy. So it all depends on how it all shakes out. Like if both teams are doing well, then yeah, you clap them, congratulations and everything like that. There's no hard feelings, right? You're working, we're working over here. It's all good. But it all depends on how it all falls out so that there's no jealousy from either party.
I don't want to jump Cal's case right now, but I do have a strong suspicion that Cal's going to throw some subtle jabs along the way. There's no doubt in my mind that there's not going to be some bitterness there from Cal in some retrospect because he's a competitor at heart. That's essentially what all of these guys are at the highest level of their craft. And he knows what happened to him at Kentucky. He knows they didn't want him anymore. He knows that he was forced out. And I have for a guy that walked into a press conference that was mad at the journalist for getting on him all year, do you not think for a single second that if he starts to have some success at Arkansas and Kentucky's not maybe being as successful as they would hope to be, there won't be some subtle jabs and some post-game press conferences that then turns it into him being a villain?
Yes. I think that's in the cards. I think that's in the cards for Coach Cal. I think he becomes the Darth Vader. And I think that's fair. I think that's warranted. And to answer your question, I think they should be standing O for him because he literally did everything they asked. He didn't cost the university $30 million and he went out of town.
Yeah,
that's quite literally what they asked. To what you were just saying. Yeah, I think he's gonna have his own little radio show in Arkansas, and I think on that radio show, he will be making fun of Big Blue Nation, I would say, frequently. And they won't be he won't come out and say anything, but it'll be little jabs, like you're saying. Yeah. And I think that's gonna be big enough. And then maybe in 5 years, that's when Kentucky fans will start booing him.
Fair enough. All right, the Reds, they played yesterday. Obviously, it
Yeah.
wasn't one to remember by any stretch of the imagination. Montas gets would roughed up be the right term to use here? I don't know. Roughed up maybe a little strong, but
3 earned
ultimately
runs.
it didn't go the way it has gone for Frankie Montas, and we knew that was coming. It's almost like the course of 162. You start to just kind of assume things when things are going really, really well that something's going to knock him off his high horse. And certainly that happened to Montas yesterday. He said he was going to win 20 games this year. He's already won 2. So again, I give him a little bit of a reprieve. My only question now moving forward is more of a big overarching question, because we could talk about every single game on this show, and that's more than fine. We could certainly dissect why they lost yesterday. But sometimes, as we've talked about before, it's like the 50-50-50 rule a little bit. Now, I understand they play more than 152 games, or 150. They play 162. But it's like you win 50, you lose 50. There's 50 that are up in the air, and it's what you do in those 50. I don't know if you fall into that camp. I like to believe that the Atlanta Braves, the Los Angeles Dodgers, that 50-50-50 rule doesn't really apply.
Correct.
Because they're just better than that.
100%.
But maybe for the most average teams, or the teams that are going to hover around what we would call like the final few playoff spots, that's probably a pretty good sentiment. But I hear the same thing over and over and over again throughout this season, at the beginning of the season, which is, well, it's 162. It's 162. It's early. Where is the line in the sand? I was thinking about that on the way in. Where is the line in the sand? Because Jamier Candelario has been bad. CES has been atrocious. But I'm also, I can take a step back, I can relax, and I can say, hey, it's a long season. But we're 100 at-bats in now. Where is that line? I'm asking everybody. 200 at-bats? 250 at-bats? At some point, you got to make a decision. You're 3-hole and you're 4-hole, and I know that there's going to be some folks that come out and say, it doesn't matter where you bat in the lineup. It all evens out. And I'm not even trying to argue the analytics of that, but what I am going to say is your 3-hole and your 4-hole hitter, guys that play positions that aren't high-leverage positions. Jamier Candelario, I guess, yes, he does, but first base specifically, CES specifically. You can't have a guy slugging the lowest on your team playing a position that's not a premium position, and on top of that, hitting in the 3-hole. But it's early. When do we freak out? I'm asking the guy that freaks out every other second, which I would love if you were a UK fan, by the way. I was just thinking that the other.
Yeah,
if you were a UK fan, you'd have had Cal out 4 years ago.
Oh, I would have, absolutely. And to answer your question, Summer Red's Twitter, literally forever, for all of time, it's always too early, because there's always next year and there's always some great prospect, and then we'll just play the same old game for 40 straight years, and after those 40 years, you have 0 playoff advancements, and you're the only team in Major League Baseball that advanced in the postseason. You're like, oh wait, but next year is going to be great because we got a great group of prospects coming in. So there is that portion of Reds Twitter. I try to avoid that portion of Reds Twitter as much as I can. I also try to avoid the negative one, the one that says we should cut Joey Votto and we should get rid of everybody and sell the team, Bob. There's a healthy middle in there. I like to think I'm more probably towards that side, but I'd say I'm more in the middle. I'm a pretty rational thinker, despite what Derby Stardom thinks. And
that one hurt you. That one hurt you.
I will be mentioning that every show.
You've brought that up every show since it's happened.
And I will continue to bring it up. I was called an unserious thinker because I had concerns about Elly's 15 errors. But that's okay. Listen, Elly De La Cruz, he's been one of the lone bright spots on this team so far. So shout out to Elly De La Cruz. To answer your question, at some point it's going to have to start mattering, and that point is probably around April 22nd. Because when April 22nd hits, we play the Phillies, Rangers, Padres, Orioles, Diamondbacks, Giants, Dodgers again, Diamondbacks again, Padres, Dodgers again, and it's just the gauntlet. So we're going to have to take series here from teams that we can beat. The Brewers, despite what they are, and they do own us, they have owned us at Great American Ballpark. It hasn't really been close over the past several seasons. This is a team we can beat. That's a beatable team. The Brewers are not anything special this year. They're not. They're down their 2 best pitchers. They're down one of their best closers. They're down their best closer. I think he's their closer right now, Devin Williams. He might be an end of relief pitcher, whatever you want to call it. Whatever you want to call it.
They got good back end arms.
They do. But they're still missing Devin Williams. I think this is a beatable team, and at some point you have to win the winnable series so you can take the losses. You can lose to the Dodgers in L.A. You can lose to the Diamondbacks in Arizona and be like, okay, that's okay. We weren't supposed to win these games. Because we took care of the White Sox, and that's this weekend. If we take care of the White Sox and the Mets and the Brewers, it's like, okay, everything's okay. So I think April 22nd is the cutoff. That's when I have to start looking at Jamier Candelario and saying, this guy's not cutting it. I have to look at guys like Tyler Stevenson, who at the plate, I know he had a good game yesterday, hasn't been cutting it. So there are guys that are struggling. CES, Reed and I were talking about this before the show, he's got a lower OBP than he has an average. That's a statistical anomaly. But that's what he has right now. And yeah, there's a couple of guys that are really carrying the load. Spencer Steer and Elly De La Cruz, And outside of that, a couple pitchers are carrying the load of this entire roster right now.
Which makes you wonder how good they really are sometimes. You take a step back. When you do a show every single day, obviously we do the show in the mornings, but then I have the Chatterbox Reds every single night. You can kind of get into the weeds a little bit, right, from time to time. You don't get a chance to have very good perspective. Sometimes I used to think to myself, when I didn't watch a ton of sports and I would listen to sports talk from time to time, I would think to myself, are these guys like being serious? Do they not see X, Y, Z? And I find myself in a position right now where the Reds, based off of certain, quite frankly, situations with their center fielder and their second baseman that I thought both were Gold Glove type caliber players, both were top of the lineup type guys. And then on top of that, you add in Noelvi Marte. You can say whatever you want, and I'm not trying to hurt people's feelings, but I think that they're an average team. I think they're an average team. If they can somehow survive in advance and get themselves into a position where they're still around towards maybe call it the All-Star break or a little after the All-Star break, then maybe you can convince me that getting Noelvi back will help significantly. And then at that point, you still don't have him for the postseason, but you can play him, and you can try to get yourself into the postseason. And then maybe after that, who knows what happens. I've stood on the hill that I'm not going to play Noelvi Marte if in which they are consistently playing well. But right now, Candelario, I'd like to think he's going to get better. But let's face it, CES is getting run right now that I don't think he gets if Noelvi Marte is healthy. He just doesn't. And that matters. Having good competition matters. Not being if you're not playing well and you've not proven over a consistent period of time, I'm talking about the Joey Vottos of the world back in the day. We knew Joey Votto has had horrific starts to the season, but everybody in Cincinnati and everybody around Major League Baseball just knew that over the course of time, Joey Votto has already proven that he's going to have a great season. And the next thing you know, after the All-Star break, he ends up hitting .450 for the rest of the year and has one of the highest on-base percentages in all of Major League Baseball. This team doesn't have that. This team doesn't have the luxury of saying, you know what, this guy's done it for a significant period of time. And you know who does have that luxury? Theoretically, I guess, at this point would be Jeimer Candelario. Of all the guys, that's the guy you could point to and say, you know what, maybe the back of his baseball card, keep using that goofy analogy, but we'll use it one more time.
One more.
But the back of the baseball card will always play out. I don't know. I mean, it does until it doesn't, though. That's the crazy thing. It does until it doesn't. And what I mean by that is Will Myers is a guy that last year was supposed to be one of the better offensive players on this team. He gets cut.
Cut early.
Cut early. Who's the first baseman off the top of my head? Howard from the Phillies?
Ryan Howard, yeah.
Ryan Howard? Like, Ryan Howard was a dude until he wasn't.
Won an MVP, yeah.
And then all of a sudden, that's my point. It's like
Chris Davis.
There's plenty of guys you could go down the list in Major League Baseball. You could go through a laundry list of names of saying, hey, these guys are going to be there. They're going to be there. But I just, again, would love to be in a situation, and the Reds aren't there right now, to where you don't always have to play this super long game with these guys. And it's not to say you're giving up on them. It's just to say that your three-hole hitter that plays first base can't possibly be this bad for this long and continue to get consistent bats. I said, and I'll continue to say, it is early. But that early for me, to answer my own question at the beginning of this segment, is literally maybe 2 more weeks at most. At the absolute most. What's fair is the question I have.
I was going to ask you guys today because I'm getting this sense of, in my fandom, where I'm settling into the baseball season, right?
Yep.
Like, you watch the games the first week and you're living and dying by every inning. Like, you want to win so badly. And if you lose, it kills you. And I'm finally getting to the point where I'm settling in, right? It's just another baseball game, right? We get these for the next 6 months. And it sounds like you guys aren't quite there yet. It sounds like, and I know, Trace, you have to do the show every day, so you have to live or die by every single game, but it sounds like we're not quite settling into the baseball season where every single game, hey, it's just another game. It's just another game. They'll play tomorrow. We got 162 total as Elliot's getting calls in the studio.
Well, that was the timer.
Yeah, he has a preposterous timer over there. Not as if he couldn't just give us a thing. But please finish your take.
That was the end of it. Was just if I was wondering if you guys were settling into the baseball season yet. It sounds like you guys aren't there yet. Like, it's like the middle of May, the middle of June, where it's just, hey, it's just a baseball game. We'll play tomorrow. Hopefully they keep playing well.
I would argue that settling in is capable of being done, but at the same time, having a rightful concern about 1 or 2 single players on your team is very healthy. We'll talk about maybe what they will ultimately end up doing with CES if he continues to struggle right after this on 1410 Wing AM. All right, we are back on the home of the best sports talk in the Miami Valley, 1410 Wing AM. And you know what else they're home to in Dayton? They're home to the Dayton Daily News. Now, I have a suspicion on where these Cups came. And we had, for those that don't know, we had some boxes that had came, and they were in what we would call snack boxes. No free ads, but there's a popcorn box, and there's a cheese cracker box that I won't give out the name brand because we don't do free ads on the show. Of course, we never do that. But I just assumed they were snacks for what has been a week. So I want to apologize to the lovely folks that are the Dayton Daily News that sent this along. Now, it doesn't say her name, but I have a very strong suspicion that Mandy Gambrell, our good friend Mandy Gambrell, had sent these. She has an executive assistant, by the way, that sent them, which shout out to Mandy, big time. And her, I believe, sister Molly is always in our chat. So shout out to Molly, Mandy, thank you. My apologies for not realizing that we had these beautiful cups sitting here for what's been probably a week and a half. They had to assume that we were jerks.
I didn't know. Lindsay and I were here when they arrived. I didn't know what they were for, and it's good to see what they are. So shout out to Mandy and Molly.
Yeah, it's always nice. Lindsay got us. Here's the thing that's really becoming somewhat utterly difficult here as we grow at Chatterbox Sports.
Sure.
People, I've always been the absolute worst, and I mean this wholeheartedly. The absolute worst with gifts, dates, birthdays. I mean, I'll tell on myself a little bit here. There has been, I don't want to say numerous, but there's been occasions where I've forgotten my anniversary. There's been occasions where I've forgotten it's my own birthday. There's been occasions where I think I was at my second stint in a professional career, and someone asked me what my mother's birthday was, and I didn't know the answer to it.
Oh, no.
I would just say that's just part of who I am. But now, Lindsay's buying us gifts. You bought us gifts around the holidays.
I did.
Elias, Casey's brought things in before. Reed's got us gifts at, like, every single holiday party. Now, I'm sitting here. I'm supposed to be, like, obviously at some point, like, I guess the guy that tries to make everyone feel appreciated and loved around here, and you should probably buy them gifts at times. But you know what? I guess I just fail in that regard. So I think I'm going to have to go do some soul searching here and find somebody around the office that I just task as, like, the gift getter, and they're going to have like, the calendar full of all the dates of everyone's birthdays and things of that nature, because I'm terrible at that. I'm going to openly say that on the forefront so I can get ahead of this thing and just let you know that I care about everybody, I love everybody, but if you're looking for me to be the guy that gets gifts, I am horrible at that. Horrible. So I think you even got frustrated because, first of all, did you take my gift? Did you take my Christmas gift?
Yeah.
Sitting right there.
I took it back. Yeah, it's right here. Trace left his gift over there for, I think it got to a month, and I think he went on his little cruise around the world, and I took my gift back. So this is my gift, and I took it here.
That's more than fair. That's more than fair.
I had to take it back. I spent more money than I should have on that gift, and I took it right back. But that's okay. I was over it. We're bringing up old wounds in here. We're bringing up old wounds. Speaking of old wounds.
Well,
by the way, speaking of old wounds.
Well, speaking of old wounds, here, really
one.
quickly, and I know this is unbelievable. This is unbelievable sports talk here on
Very
1410 Wing AM.
We'll
get to the Reds in just a second, but I do want to say there are times where I throw some bones around here. Maybe I haven't thrown them to Reed as much as I should have, but I've thrown you a bone or two. I give Casey an opportunity to win some money around here. I stayed up for what was 24 hours on an online stream that I hated my life. By the way, you guys have no idea how much I hated myself when I was sitting there at 3 or 4 in the morning while the hundreds of dollars were just flying away as we spoke. And
but I also feel like you made that harder for yourself than you had to because I gave you a way better option than that.
You know, sometimes you just want to make sure that you deliver on what you said you're going to do. That's one thing. That's one of the principles in my life that I do try to make sure that I don't break. It's like if you say you're going to do something, then you do it, and there's really no excuse. There's no excuse. Right. So speaking of no excuses, here's the segue to CES. At some point, CES is going to have to figure it out. But I'm with you, Reed. I've settled in. I think that the Reds are just an average team. I've settled in. I think, that you don't think they're an average team?
Well, I think they're worse than average, but you guys don't care what I think.
You think they're worse than average?
They're going to finish,
Without,
78 wins.
Turn off the shtick for a second. It's okay if you do. It's okay.
I think the injuries and PED suspensions and everything have made them worse than average. Yes,
I think that's fair.
Genuinely,
I think that's fair. I know Reds fans going to want to hear it, and I think at some point luck does become a factor as well. You got to be lucky. The Reds have been, outside of the injuries, which is very bad, a pretty fortunate team. They lead the league in getting on base via the error. They've reached base 8 times
it's evened out almost
via error. So it's like the universe is trying to help the Reds as best they can. It's just at some point, and the stolen base thing's great. You can get to third base all day long. You can steal first, or you can steal second, you can steal third, but somebody still has to be there to drive that guy in. It has to happen. You have to be able to drive in runs, and up until this point, there's only been a couple guys on the team that's been consistently able to do that, and that's what we need. I'm not too concerned about CES yet, the same way I'm not too concerned about Elly, the way I'm not too concerned about Matt McClain or any of these guys. And we did find out big news about Matt McClain yesterday. Matt McClain has a timetable, and that timetable is August. Do I believe that? No. But that's what they're giving us, so that's what I have to be excited for. If we can get Matt McClain back by August, maybe we get a decent run towards October there. But saying all this, the Reds have been a pretty fortunate team for this, first 11 games? I don't know how many games we've played. 11, 12, 13 games?
11.
Whatever it is, we've been pretty fortunate. And I think you have to take advantage of those opportunities, and the Reds have. Eventually, those opportunities are going to start coming, and you're going to have to start doing it by yourself, and that's when it's going to get hard.
They've also lost some games they should have won, so I think it all is somewhat averaged out here over the course of 11 games, mind you. There was 162 of them in the course of a season. So I put out a post yesterday where the Reds had, at this time, through 11 games, had the least amount of wins in the National League at 4, and this year they're 6-5. So it's like, of course, if you look at this roster this year versus the roster of last year, it's significantly better. But at the same time, I think it's fair to say this team is probably average right now. And the only thing that you could convince me otherwise as to why it's not average and maybe it could be a little above average is the starting pitching.
That's part of the buy or sell later. It's part of the buy or sell later. But just a reminder of where this team was a year ago. I'm looking at the box score from this date 1 year ago.
Okay.
Batting cleanup was Tyler Stevenson.
Yes.
I think we can all agree that won't happen anytime soon.
Pretty gross.
Your 5-hole hitter and your designated hitter was Will Myers.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Your 6-hole was Jason Vossler.
Right.
Big Voss.
What a terrible team this was.
Kevin Newman pinched hit for Will Benson late in the game.
Right.
And Jose Barrero was your starting shortstop.
All right. Well,
Yuck.
there you go. So
Yuck.
we feel great now.
And I will say this, Trace made this point last year, and I think it's a really good point. If you send one of these guys down, it's not a punishment. At some point, it warped people's minds, and it became a punishment to be sent down to AAA. CES is so young. Will Benson came up last year. In the first 30 at-bats, he swung and missed every single at-bat. He went down to AAA. He came up, and now he's one of our best players. CES, I don't think it kills the team to bring Mike Ford up to the majors. You play him at first base, a guy who can hit, a guy who can rake, really, ton of power, and you let CES work on some stuff. And then a month later, 3 weeks later, 2 weeks later, how many weeks you want to give him, he comes up and he's ready to go. This is not a punishment.
Now let me just say something here.
Sure,
because that can get clipped up, Elliot, and you could get kind of made fun of here just in a short bit. You just explained who CES is in a nutshell. He's a guy that's got a lot of power, can rake, has done it at the minor league level. Last year, I was screaming and yelling for this guy to come up. And sometimes I think it's fair to say that baseball is what it is, and there's times where guys struggle, and they get in their minds, and they get in their heads, and baseball is more mental than anything. I think yesterday, to kind of give a good roundabout full circle moment in the whole segment that is baseball in this show, is that yesterday was a good example of kind of how offense breeds offense. And psychologically speaking, there's no reason that a game should have been 23-22. It wasn't like they were making errors. That was just it. What it was positive momentum, and it was nothing more than it was an expectation when you went to the plate that you felt good and that you were going to get a good hit. Or you were going to make solid contact and probably get a hit. And that just rolled over to the next guy and rolled over to the next guy and rolled over to the next guy.
Those like 78-mile-per-hour meatballs.
And to be fair, they weren't. Now that's a fun debate.
I think towards the seventh inning,
I'll tell you
I was looking at the pitch clock, and they weren't exceeding 90 miles an hour. I'll tell you that.
I'll tell you right now.
That radar gun was bad.
That radar gun wasn't working.
Okay,
I'll tell you right now, Elliot, we got another fun Elliot challenge.
We'll win the radar
I'm going to find – I got a good suspicion that there's a couple of those kids that were maybe throwing towards the end of that game. They probably don't have a professional career in baseball. But they probably have the opportunity. Maybe we could throw them some NIL funds or something like that. I'm going to find out who it is that yesterday that was having trouble getting outs towards the end of that game. Maybe we'll get 2 of them. And what we'll do is we'll go to the local park. We'll get you a helmet. We'll get you a bat, and let's see if you can at least touch.
This proves nothing. This proves nothing. A college Division I athlete striking me out is nothing. I'd like them to be able to strike out another
How many
Division
swings
I
until you at least touch a ball?
Can I pitch to you guys?
I'd love Reed to pitch to me. I could get a hit off Reed.
Probably.
And that's a division what? 2 athlete? So yeah,
3.
Division 3, same thing. That's just as good. So Reed, you can't look me in the eye. And by the way, each batter for Wright State,
I'm going to look you right in the eye and tell you right now.
8 at bats. They each had 8 at bats. You can't tell me if Reed was a part of one of those teams, he wouldn't have got a hit. He would have gotten 1 hit.
Oh. If I got 7 at bats, yeah.
He's getting a hit. That's a fact. Me, I didn't play Division I baseball or Division III baseball.
Well, I'm just suggesting that you're acting like they were going out there and they had no chance of getting guys out. I think you
did. They have a chance of getting anybody out? How many pitchers did they throw?
No.
They threw 15 pitchers each.
My whole point was the psychological effect of guys getting hit after hit after hit will play a role not only in the pitcher's mind but also the hitters, the lineup. I genuinely think you could have gone out there with an L screen, thrown batting practice, and I don't think either team would have scored 23 runs. But,
I agree.
But psychologically, they were in a different spot yesterday. So kudos to those 2 teams. Well, that's my point with CES. He's in his head a little bit. Now he's pressing, and the question is can he bust out? If he starts getting a couple hits over the next few weeks and gets some, he's had 1 meaningful hit to be fair, then I think he can break out of it and all will be well. But the line in the sand is coming up. You think it's already there?
I think we're close. We're getting dangerously close.
What's that mean?
I would say if he hasn't figured it out in a week, I'm going to start calling him. I'm going to start saying, bring him down.
All right,
bring him down.
I do think too. They're like
not a punishment. Not a punishment.
If we're gonna compare him to like Elly and Elly figuring it out, kind of, which we're hoping he's figured it out. He's had 1 great game, and he's been able to hit consecutively. 12 games in a row or something like that?
He's hitting every single game except for 1, but he's been on base in every single game.
Yeah, and that's the difference, really, is CES has not been on base every single game. He's not had a hit every single game this season, unlike Elly, who's shown signs that he's making progress towards breaking out of that.
Yeah.
I'm hoping that, was it yesterday that he had 2 hits? That this is the start of it, maybe? But that's a tall ask. I mean, I'm just looking at the numbers here. I mean, he's 15 strikeouts, only had 8 hits on 49 at-bats. OBP is 160.
He is on pace for 80 errors, Elly De La Cruz is.
80 errors?
He's on pace for 80 errors. I think they gave him a bad error yesterday, though. I think they gave him a bad error yesterday.
I would agree with that. That was one of those errors where, and I think Elly's been a part of a couple of these errors now to where it's like it could have been it was faults of both. I think India could have caught the ball yesterday.
It was a bad feed.
He could have thrown the ball maybe a little better, but a good second baseman probably catches that ball. I would say a good first baseman probably catches the ball that I freaked out about. And all in all, once it ends to where it doesn't hurt the team, nobody cares. So to be fair to Elly,
right.
If India catches that ball, if CES catches the ball, I don't know if India gets as much hate in regards to his fielding capabilities as others would suggest.
Listen, I agree. I think I actually sent the air to to Casey. I sent it via email. We could show during maybe our ad breaks because the radio listeners don't want to see that. But they weren't turning 2 on that play. That was a bad feed, but India certainly could have gotten out. India, he could have caught the ball. But, yeah, I agree with you.
I also, to be fair, on the other end of it, if you've not played with Elly a bunch, he is very lanky. He throws hard. It's not an easy catch either, though. Like it's similar to guys that can hide the ball well when they pitch. Mm-hmm. And I'm not suggesting Elly's purposely trying to hide the ball or anything like that. But when you're as tall as Elly, you're as lanky as Elly, it is much more difficult to kind of be able to glove a baseball from guys that throw it at the arm angles in which he throws it at. And I'm sure here in a minute we'll get a chance to see the arm angle that he threw the ball at. That's not a bad arm angle. It's just a difficult one for India. And India's a guy, quite frankly, that's not had a chance to be playing second base a bunch. Oddly enough, outside of what Barry Larkin I'm mentioning, playing a position a considerable amount of the time probably helps your case to get a little bit better. So I'm going to defend India in saying that at some point, I know he's played there over the course of his career, but at some point he's going to have to find a way to where he gets better there, or Matt McClain's going to be healthy and it's not going to matter. That's not where Jonathan India is ultimately going to end up playing. All right, we are going to take a break. When we come back, we're going to talk buy or sell. Then we'll get into some NFL talk and finish it out with some golf. Right after this on 1410 Wing AM. All right, we have the clip. Let's run the clip. Let's just
Elliot has not seen
let's
this.
do our YouTube show right now. So in all seriousness, this play yesterday happened. I don't blame either one. Maybe I'm getting soft in my old age, but I think that both could have done a little bit better.
I agree.
Here's the play.
Elliot has not seen this, so I want to hear Elliot's reaction on who this is an error attributed to.
Done. Now William.
I am biased to Jonathan India.
We got to see the replay. Let's wait.
As of right there, it's on Elly. As of right there, it's on Elly. Okay, tough play. That's on Jonathan India.
Yeah,
Correct.
It's on India.
I think India took too long to get to the bag. He was wanting a feed behind the bag. Elly gave him a bad feed, but you should get an out there.
But I think that's
I agree.
that's a lazy throw. I mean, it's first of all, it's on Jonathan India 100%.
It's not a lazy throw. He's turning 2. You take a step
I
back.
think
you
I
pivot,
think
and you
to
give
be
it-
fair, to be fair, let's can we be what's the term to use here? Let's be fair on this show. I think you think it's lazy, and that's okay. I understand why you think that's lazy, but I think he's not being lazy as much as it is like he's just trying to be quick with being able to
Correct.
release it. So when he catches the ball like down here, you throw it from down there. That's how you're taught. That's the way to do it. If you make a bad throw, it looks lazy. If you make a good throw, then you look smooth.
Yeah.
But I don't think he was being lazy, to be fair.
Okay, if you don't want to call it lazy, I would say then it's just not a good throw.
Okay, that's fair.
They were not turning 2 because of Elly's throw.
That's right.
That was a bad feed to turn 2, but Jonathan India still should have gotten 1 out.
Correct.
Yeah.
It's Jonathan India should have caught the ball.
Right.
So I can't excuse Jonathan India.
The old
Who would
adage
you give the air
is-
to?
I'd give the air to India.
You have to. I think you have to give it to Elly because he was the one who threw it, right?
Yes, that's where we get into this
I think
age-old
he's.
debate.
But
That's why air's a bad stat.
correct. It's a bad stat. It's a bad stat. Because I think he's the one who caused it. Is how I describe it.
You touch it, you catch it. That's how I.
I
grew
agree
up.
with that too. It's
You
on
touch
India.
it, you
It should be on India, but you give it to Elly, which is it's just unfortunate how it works.
Yeah,
That's-
on pace for 80 airs. Whatever it is. All right.
I don't, like I said, it's on both of them. There's a little bit of error in both situations. Should that ball have been caught? 100%. I'd also argue those two guys, when you talk about middle infield play and you talk about the chemistry between two guys, that is what we're talking about. In that situation, in that instance, that's why it's important to play with somebody over the course of time, because you know inevitably what that arm slot looks like. You know where it's going. We talk about the battery all the time, right? The pitcher and the catcher. Yep. This guy likes throwing to this guy, right? Montas loves throwing to Stevenson. I don't know why. I think it's because Stevenson showed up first to camp and Montas was already there, but that's another point. But then you have like Hunter Green. He only wants to throw to like Luke Maley. You have that throughout Major League Baseball, and that's because there's some comfortability with who you're throwing the ball to. Same thing at second base. You know, it's not just that throw. It's the flips up the middle. It's how soft you toss the ball, how close you need to be. Are you going to take it yourself? If you play with somebody over a course of time, you know what they're going to do before they do it. You know if they're going to flip it. You know if they're going to want to take it themselves. You're going to know what arm slot they're going to throw from. Those two guys have not played a lot together. They've not. And I mean, that's a reasonable, fair excuse. And Jonathan India should have caught that ball, but I'm not going to give him all the blame because Elly could have made a better throw, which we all agree on. But that's what this team is. Unfortunately, they're not very good defensively.
They're
horrible.
That's what's going to keep them out of the playoffs if we're going to be serious. Because at some point, I don't know how you fix routine plays like that. When you're a major league player, and I know you want to say he's a little baby boy and he's young and everyone's going to grow. At some point throughout your baseball career, you learn to make a fundamental play consistently. Every once in a while, you get an error. That's a position. The shortstop is a position where a ton of errors happen because the ball's coming to you a ton.
Yeah.
But at some point, all around the field, we're going to need to start making routine plays. And I don't know how that happens. You can't teach Jonathan India to catch a baseball. You can't teach him that.
The only thing you
can't
can teach
Elly
Jonathan
to throw
India
from 10 feet and make it on target.
Well,
you can't teach him that.
What you can teach him, though, and this is where I just don't understand. Sometimes, you sound like you're the old guy screaming at the clouds sometimes, and I don't understand really why they do some of the things they do with the defensive shift with in regards to double plays, because I think that it affects other things. Now, this play I can't say because I'd love to be able to see the overhead view, the bird's eye view of this play, because ultimately, where was Jonathan India to start that play?
He was slow to get into the bag.
Because he was late. If he's on time,
Correct.
Reed, and we both know, if he's on time and he's at that base ready to the ball is really not even all that bad of a throw, and I think he catches the ball. The reason he didn't catch the ball is because I think he was late to the bag. He was moving while he was still trying to catch the ball, and it's like, I don't want to blame Jonathan India for that because they might have asked him to be positioned somewhere where he's not capable of being there on time, but maybe he was, and maybe Jonathan India was late to react. I don't know what the situation was, but he was late to the bag.
I've watched it a few times now, and he was hovering behind the bag. He got to the bag in plenty of time. He was hovering behind the bag because he wanted Elly, because he was going to push off the bag and throw it
behind,
it down the baseline, and then Elly obviously gave him a feed. That's where it's bad on Elly.
So that's a bad throw by Elly.
It was, once again, it's a bad throw by Elly. Still should have gotten out. Because of the play that Elly De La Cruz made, they weren't going to turn two. Because of the play that Jonathan India made, they didn't get a single out. That's where the disconnect is. A good second baseman makes it out there, gets it out there.
Correct. Yeah, he catches the ball, ultimately winds up to where we have. All right, we have ads on this show, and there's no better person to do those ads than Casey McAllister. Casey, the sports report was brought to you by who?
Encore Technologies, and Encore Technologies provides IT solutions for a data-centered world with a suite of services from mobile computing to desktop to data center, supporting both centralized and work-from-home computing modules to improve efficiency and
Productivity.
productivity. That's right, guys. The path to innovation begins here. Visit encore.tech. Let me tell you about Pawnee Water. Made right here in Hamilton, Ohio. Uses natural limestone filtration, unlike the artificial processing that other brands use. The result is a healthy alkaline water, and some say the best tasting water in the world. Visit Pawnee Water at PAHHNIwater.com. See where you can buy this great tasting water. And apparently Kendrick Perkins, I know we kind of went over that video the other day, but he has partial ownership now.
Whoa.
Is that correct?
These are rumors. I don't
That's
know.
Alex Wallace. Where'd you see that?
Oh, Alex Wallace in the chat.
Yeah.
Breaking news.
Well, regardless, he is. I know that he is a sponsoring it.
That's
least.
right.
He's at least got some part of. He's invested into it. So
Fair enough. You're saying he has some equity stake, is what you're suggesting here. Yeah, maybe he does. Maybe he does. He probably doesn't go on the McAfee show all that often and just decide to start promoting random bottles of water, but he did. So you'd like to think that might be true. Another thing that I just thought of, that just my brain somehow randomly remembers things. We have to, and I said this before, you need to write it down so we don't forget to do this. But we have got to send the Grippos at Arizona. Did we do that? We didn't do that.
We haven't done that.
All right. We need to write that down. We're going to make good on our promises.
I
will do it.
I have to have an address though. He was supposed to send us his address too.
Right. And was this Natty Ron?
Yeah,
Natty Ron?
I think so.
All right. Well, whoever it was, Natty Ron, I believe if that's you, then you're gonna have to send us an email with your address because we'll make good on that. Especially when we said we were gonna do it, right? We said we were gonna do it, right, Elliot?
Sure.
Now I know you need the address to be fair.
I never got the address.
I'm not crushing you. I'm just saying that was already something desired.
Correct.
All right. Anything to add here before we get back into what we would call serious sports talk radio?
Time.
The game time.
Game
Want me to
time
do it?
app, the ticketing app, sponsoring us.
right.
Use code OTB to get $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. That's code OTB to get $20 off your first purchase. It's 2 simple clicks. All the pricing's up front. You get to see exactly where you're sitting at, and you get your tickets. And
I also
fast, easy, and
100%. The app looks better than like SeatGeek and no, we can't say the other ones. The app looks better than the other ticketing apps that don't exist because you should only be using Game Time. But if you have any of the other ones, they look legitimately like trash. Game Time looks phenomenal. The Game Time app looks great. Go get it on your phone.
which is different from our old betting sponsor who had the worst app in the world.
What a shot.
But I mean,
What a shot.
This show's
I'm
off the
just saying.
rails.
What a shot.
I agree with Elliot. I mean, Game Time is
You go to
actually a
that side
better
of the
looking
room
app.
for honesty.
Some
I mean-
some apps are better than others, and Game Time has the better app. Some guys named Fred, they didn't make great apps, but that's okay. We'll move on. That's how we are.
You know what I was getting ready to suggest and say on this show, and I know, I listen, I'm well aware, but yesterday, I think everyone collectively had a long day. Sometimes, the things that I know I wasn't there all day, but when I left to go do my own things, like I just sit down at night, I'm like, dang, it's a long day. The energy in the room, not that it's bad, but it's like I can tell that there was some brain cells exhausted yesterday to the extreme extent to where we're fighting and clawing on this show. I look over to my right and I have 2 guys sitting behind a desk that are just they look like Kentucky in the first round of the tournament. And I don't know, I'm not saying that you're going to lose like Kentucky, but you can just see that it's just a struggle. We're working hard.
Yeah, we're
St.
fighting.
Peter's is a lot better than we thought they were.
Yeah, can I get the chat?
Oakland's
to
a
just
lot
start-
better than maybe some had suggested.
I need the chat to just start spamming the tired emoji that we have for the members. Just start spamming that because that's what me and Elliot are. We're tired.
You guys are
tired.
fighting though, and you know what you do when you get tired? What
What's
do you
that?
do? I'll tell you what I do. I get a lot more honest. I
get
get a lot
sleepy.
more. I get a lot more direct, and I get a lot. Perhaps what some would suggest I'm not as nice.
I listen. If somebody,
You might have found that out on a trip.
I found that one out. If I walk on the streets of Hamilton and somebody gives me a little bit of sass, listen. My fuse is shorter today. My fuse is certainly shorter today, but that's okay. Oh, we got a lot of spams. Good. That was a good spam, Casey. We got some spams in here. Thank you, Nate.
There you go. Nate's got it.
Harrah's
Harrah's got it.
Mr. Mo's got it.
Let's get back to the radio.
But we need 5 seconds of silence to differentiate.
We do. We
So
need
here
to
we
do
go.
that.
Yep.
All right, welcome back into 1410 Wing AM, home of the best sports talk in the Miami Valley. And this is Off the Bench presented by United Dairy Farmers, Trace Fowler. Join us also with the cast of characters that we usually have in here. And my thing is when I walk into the day, I wasn't 100% sure where we were going to go with certain topics, certain things. And then Reed pops in and he says, I have a buy or sell. I said, you have a buy or sell? He said, yes, I have a buy or sell. I said, Reed, please. Don't be lying to me. And he said, no, I really do have a buy or sell. So guess what we have today, guys?
Buy or
buy
sell.
or sell. Go ahead.
I was just going to ask one question regarding the Reds if we could right before it.
Ooh, yeah.
But it could. It could be on your buy or sell. I don't think it will be. Who do you think on this Reds roster right now has the most approved this season?
Most approve?
Yeah, like
Most
they're like
to prove or most improved?
most approved, and they're proving it for the fan base. They're proving it to the coaching staff that they can continue to stay on this roster and they'll be with us for a long time.
Oh.
I don't think you can say Elly. I don't think you can say any of the rookies.
he's gonna be on the roster.
And I have my answer, and I think it's really between about 3 or 4 guys. One of them is Jonathan India, and I think Jonathan India
Red Sparrow.
up until this point, Jack Sparrow has lived up to it, has proven that he can play. The other person, and it's going to be my pick, who is the most approved, is Tyler Stevenson.
Ooh.
Tyler Stevenson had a good game last night offensively. It was, I think, his best game offensively of the season so far. The season is young. But as of right now, the way people talk about Jonathan India is, I think, somewhat how you should be talking about Tyler Stevenson. I think there was one flash in the pan season, and you've had 2 mediocre seasons. Now, I know there's been some injuries there, and that's certainly a large part of it. But at the plate, he has regressed to almost you can't even put him now with him 3 years ago.
Right.
You can't do it. And I think right now, and we have some guys in AAA, I believe. Nick Kirby mentioned the name, and I'm going to forget it.
It's okay.
There's a catcher in AAA right now that's tearing it up, and I think that's a guy that maybe could come up if Tyler Stevenson continues to struggle at the plate.
Does Luke Maley ever get a real chance? Like it seems like every time he gets a pretty sizable chance, he produces. But at the same time, Tyler Stevenson, he's still living, breathing, and getting opportunities based off the past. It's got nothing to do with what he's done in the relative near time frame. It has everything to do with what he looked like a few years ago. We shall find out. My answer is Solo Dolo, Nick Lodolo. I think Nick Lodolo, for all intents and purposes, has been gone so long now that you have one side of the aisle that thinks he's injury prone, that he's not going to ever become the guy that he once was, and then you have another side of the aisle that thinks he's the Reds' best pitcher. That is the one that I think has the most to prove before we get into buy or sell.
Before
I think that's a good answer.
Start buy or sell.
Yeah.
Can I hit the buy or sell like our normal thing that we normally do?
Of course, you can do whatever you'd like. You can let the listeners in Dayton know what's about to happen.
All right. Well, Reed, do you want to kick it off?
Yeah. Buy or sell.
Buy. Sell.
Yeah.
There we go. there we go. All right, buy or sell Reds edition. Reds edition like we did last time, but this time it's coming from Readeroo.
Wow.
So you know the questions aren't going to be slanted. First one, buy or sell, Spencer Steer, 100 RBI season. Leads the league right now in RBIs. Spencer Steer, 100 RBI season. Buy or sell?
Every time Reed does something, it's like the boy who cried wolf. I honestly think that every single question he asks is it's lure right there for you to take. He's just trying to reel you in. He's just begging for us to come out here and laugh at this question and say, there's no chance Spencer Steer doesn't get to 100 RBI, so then he can clip this thing up and put it in my face later. But I'm going to say that there's no way that Spencer Steer doesn't get 100 RBIs.
Okay.
Spencer Steer, I'm going to buy it.
So
Spencer Steer,
we're both buying.
Spencer Steer is going to get 100 RBIs. I think as of right now, he is the best. He is the most I've lost my brain. He is the most consistent hitter on this team.
Some say he never had it.
That's what some are saying, but today is really gone. I would say I think he's in a position in the lineup where he can consistently put guys on. I know people don't like him batting 7th against righties or whatever it is, and I don't hate him. If you put him in 7, you put him at 2, you put him at 4. I don't care either way. Somebody's going to be on base for him. And he's going to knock him in.
Okay. Casey Rue?
I'm going to buy, which
Okay.
means that the Chatterbox Studios
Buy.
is buying.
Okay,
you go.
fair enough. You got to be healthy for the entire year. 14 RBIs certainly gets you ahead of the case, and obviously they've got a lot of speed. A lot of speed.
Can I ask you this?
You're such a troll. You are such a troll, man.
If he gets 25 home runs with 100 RBIs, will you apologize for your take that we've seen the best of him already?
I think his ceiling's not much higher. Like I think like if he continues to be what he was last year and what he's on pace to do this year, he's a phenomenal baseball player. But don't expect him to keep improving to be like a 40 home run guy, mid 30 home run guy. Like I think you saw the ceiling last year. All right. Starting pitching is the strength of this team right now. Buy or sell?
Oh, man. This one is incredibly difficult because I think their offense is going to catch up. But if I were to sell that right now and I say the offense, I'm going to get crushed. But as you just mentioned, we're 11 games in. I am going to say that I'm going to buy that based off the depth. And I do believe that I don't know if there's one pitcher on this team that I would say is, again, to use the cliche term, ace. I don't think that there's one bona fide ace. I really don't. But I do think there's a lot of solid arms. I think they have so many decent arms that every single time I go into a game, I think that they can win. It's not a throwaway game. You know, like we had throwaway games last year. With all due respect to Luis Cessa's family, it was a throwaway game. There was zero chance the Reds were going to win if he threw the baseball. That's not the case this year.
Luke Dreamweaver kind of proved you wrong, though, on that one.
Well, Luke Dreamweaver, see, he had a special superpower,
You know,
which was every time he decided to throw, he was the opposite of actually Hunter Green. Now, see, Hunter Green, I think, is the most unlucky pitcher in all of Major League Baseball, and that is because you ever seen Space Jam? Of course you have.
I have.
It's because it was like the Monstars.
Monstars
They
stole
stole all of Hunter Green's luck. Luke Weaver stole all of Hunter Green's luck and then just got out of town with it. That's what happened in regards to what's happened with Hunter Green, because I think Hunter Green genuinely, and maybe I'm just biased because I'm rooting for Hunter and I want him to do well, but I tell you what, when you watch a Hunter Green game, there will be things that happen, and then the Reds' offense will either fail him or the defense will fail him. Somebody's going to fail Hunter Green every time he goes out there. Now, that's my way of hopefully jinxing this thing back to existence.
To answer your question, I'm
you buy him?
going to sell.
Okay.
I don't think.
What is the strength then?
I think the strength is the ability to get on base, move runners in scoring position, and then capitalize on that. The Reds have scored a lot of runs so far this season. And again, starting pitching's been very good. Frankie Montas has been very, very, very good. Hunter Green has looked very, very good. Graham Ashcraft, up until the end of that start yesterday, had looked decent. Andrew Abbott's looked pretty good. Nick Martinez is the only one that's really struggling right now out of the starting five. But I will say this, I think the offense always gives us a chance. In the bottom of the ninth, when there's 2 outs and you're down 2 runs, I still believe in this roster, in this team, that they can come back. And I think that's the strength. That's our heart. That's our beating heart. And also to add on to the Luke Dreamweaver, I believe this was as of this weekend. I haven't checked this week. He had a 7 ERA and he led the league this season in wins. Just a little fun fact for all those Luke Dreamweaver believers. For the Yankees.
I'm with Elliot here because it's not even just because of what they do when they get on base or like being able to be really great base runners. They cause chaos. They cause dysfunction to good defenses when they do get on base. And I think that's
a good point.
I don't know if it's unprecedented, but it is very, very it is like a secret weapon, I should say.
I didn't even mention that, too, because I mentioned earlier on in the show, they lead the majors. They've been on base 8 times due to opposing errors. There is something to what Casey just said that I think is 100% correct, that opposing defenses are looking at our speed, and they're saying, we got to make this play now, we got to make it fast, we got to make it efficient. And, again, it hasn't been that so far for the defenses playing against us.
Good teams create their own luck. And if getting on base due to an error is lucky, well, you can look at the Reds' offense as being the reason.
That's an excellent point, because I think there's a lot of times every time a team wins a Super Bowl or there's a team like the Chiefs, me and you have sat here and we've said the same thing over and over again, which is they get lucky, and at some point if you take the blinders off, you realize they do create their own luck.
Yeah.
They have to stop, and not to just derail the buy or sell. We'll obviously go right into the next question. But my main point to that is that we don't talk about the Chiefs getting a stop to be able to set up Patrick Mahomes flopping out of bounds to be able to kick the game-winning field goal in the AFC Championship. But the Chiefs did get the stop.
That hurt.
Right.
But that's my point.
Yeah. I agree.
That one hurt.
Well, you're over here being a troll, so
I'm not trolling. I'm asking serious buy or sell questions. And by the way, I am selling because I do think that the Reds' ability to create havoc on the base pass is their strength. Their on-base percentage is league average. Their power numbers.
Chatterbox Studios?
Sell.
Okay.
Selling.
You're also a Chiefs guy, so that was more or less for you.
I'm not a Chiefs guy. Oh, my God. I'm getting slandered over here. We're bringing up the AFC Championship game 2 years ago, which was a dark, dark day in Reed's brain. All right. Here's one that's not necessarily about the Reds, but about the division as a whole. Buy or sell. The National League Central is a wagon. Pirates are playing well. Cubs look good. Brewers playing well. Cardinals are them. Reds are, they're above 500. NL Central is a wagon. Buy or sell?
Sell. I sell that. I sell that. What's a wagon's too strong of a term. When I think of a wagon, I'm thinking UConn. I'm thinking Alabama in their heyday.
Well, they don't have a single team under 500,
They're
right?
They're competitive. But every team, and I don't think you can say that with any other division in baseball, every single team in this division, in the NL Central, is competitive. The difference is there's not one team that's, in my opinion, a World Series contender. If I close my little eyes at night and I dream of who's hoisting up the piece of metal, as Rob Manfred calls it, I don't see any NL Central team hoisting it up.
You don't see Seiya Suzuki holding it above his
I
head?
certainly don't see Seiya Suzuki holding
No.
it up.
All right, fair enough. Yeah. I'm buying. I think the NL Central is really good. I said before the year that Lindsey's Pirates are very good. They're 9-3 to start the season. They kind of did this last year, but they're 9-3. They should have won yesterday. David Bednard with another blown save. I think the Cubs look very good despite their bullpen looking bad. I haven't watched a whole lot of the Brewers or the Cardinals, but they're playing good baseball. So I think it's a really good division. I think it's a really good division, and we're seeing that all the teams are viable to make the postseason. And I'll say, yeah, I'm buying that they are a wagon. Casey?
Yeah, I'm gonna split the decision here, so it's gonna come down to Lindsey. I'm gonna buy with you, Reed. Right now, they're sitting as the second best division in all baseball. I mean, how can you not say that they're not at least one of the most competitive divisions in baseball right now? I don't know.
It's the most competitive. Yeah. But that's a different question. Like, it's the most competitive.
Yeah, you use the term wagon.
Right. Okay, that's fair. That's fair. Lindsey, is the NL Central a wagon? Yes or no? Buy or sell?
I mean, obviously, I'm gonna buy that.
There it is. There it is.
Chatterbox is buying.
Hey, what is it about Pittsburgh teams, by the way, that they get off to these? They're not very good. I mean, let's be honest. Like the Steelers are not good. The Steelers are not good. The
How?
Pirates,
You're gonna say, like,
the Pirates
they
are
jump
not
out
good.
to a they
I'm
jump
just
out
saying,
to be
these
unbelievable.
teams,
They
they
did that
get
like
off to
4 years ago.
They
Steelers
get
not
off to
good.
great starts, but we all know what they
Penn State
are.
does
They're
that.
not
Okay.
very good.
Penn State does do that.
Penn State does it too. I mean,
That's
what
right.
is it about that?
We convinced
where
ourselves.
were
Here
the
we go.
Where were the Packers in the playoffs? Where were the Bengals in the playoffs?
They won a
Nowhere,
playoff
right?
game last year,
Packers beat
Lindsey.
the Cowboys by like 100.
But that's okay.
Shit, shoot.
Oh,
Oh, Lindsey!
Sorry.
Oh no! What's
This
the
is
time
on the
marker?
radio.
What's the time marker?
Sorry.
The radio. We're kicked off the radio because of Lindsey. I want to.
I won't lie. I did not have the odds.
How red is Lindsey's face going to get is the question of the day now. Buy or sell? Lindsey's never been more afraid of
goodness.
Chatterbox
Lindsey
Sports.
says 15 words on the show, and one of them is profanity.
Oh my goodness!
That's the end of the segment. And that's a good way to end it. So I know where to cut it.
No,
you have to end it.
We have to do one more.
We'll final buy or sell next segment, so I know where to cut this.
No, just I can cut it. You guys are doing box lunch anyways.
Okay. All right.
No, I think you just bleep it out. This is great radio.
Yeah, I'm just gonna bleep it out.
All right.
There we go.
The final buy or sell, and I want you guys to read this on the screen. All right, you ready? Buy or sell. Elly De La Cruz is the worst defensive player in the history of Major League Baseball, the world, and mankind. I'll start it off. Buy.
For the radio listeners, you're gonna have to check this out. I mean, it is a preposterous lower third, just all smushed together. You can't even read it. I mean, it's just.
You suggesting to
unbelievable.
me that Reed put that in there?
Yes. It's a good bit.
Is that Elly with one L?
2 L's?
There's two
two
L's there?
in there.
Oh,
You
man.
buying or selling?
I'm selling.
No
You
comment.
could not sell that as much as I could. You know why? Because I watched Kevin Newman play. I watched Kevin Newman play last year. I didn't need to see anymore. I've watched Jonathan India play 2 years of
Gastritis.
baseball. I mean, well, I'm not trying. I mean, these are ricochet shots, but with all due respect to those two guys, that would make it to where Ellie's not the worst player in mankind.
Yeah, I don't have a comment for that. In fact, I'm gonna refrain.
The
What's
Chatterbox
worse, the
Studios,
lower third or that question?
Chatterbox Studios
Lower
is
third.
sell.
Sell. All right. Well, it was worth a question. It was worth an ask. Sorry, guys.
That's fair. Tell me that's not what you ended it on.
That was it. That was
All
the
right.
That was the final one.
All right. Well, the beautiful thing is that we're going to get back to some very, very serious sports talk right after this on 1410 Wing M. Who's going to win the Masters? Who should you bet on? We'll talk about that and more right after this. Welcome back into 1410 Wing AM. You know, here's the thing. I really wish we had the what would we call this? The creative freedom to be able to play certain things on our show, but otherwise wouldn't be copyrighted. I'm wondering if the radio has the ability, and you know what, they might have just embedded this as I've come on, but the Masters music is right up there for me.
Oh, yeah.
With almost every other music that's associated with a sporting event, outside of maybe the only competition is March Madness. That's the closest thing that comes to it. I don't know what it is, but if you hear just the commercials, they start to play the little small jingle. Jim Nantz comes on the microphone and he gives you a hello, friends. I don't know. Maybe I'm overselling it. Maybe I care too much about golf. I know the vast majority of the population are not really into golf per se. They don't watch the tour. They don't watch Live. Well, I don't think anybody watches Live. But this is the week of all weeks for golf, right? This is the Super Bowl. Of all the sporting events, I'll ask the room, do you watch golf ever? And if you don't, do you at least watch Sunday of the Masters?
I like to think I watch more tournaments than not in golf. Like if it's a random Texas Valero Open or something like that, I won't watch it. But usually, if it's close on Sunday, on any given Sunday, and football is not on or nothing's on, then yeah, I'm gonna go over to golf. And I'm gonna watch what happens at the end. In the Masters specifically, the first 2 days of the Masters to me have always been very close to the first 2 days of March Madness, because usually I'm in school, but it's the same deal. You get to stream it on your computer, act like you're not, or act like you're working when you're not. You're watching the Masters. So I love it. It's one of my favorite events of the year. If you had to rank them, March Madness is still number one, NFL Wildcard Weekend is number two, and then Masters is probably number three.
Well, yeah, I didn't mean like sporting event. I meant the jingle, like just the sound. The sound that comes with it. NFL has some good ones too. I think Sunday Night Football has a good one. Did NFL on Fox change their jingle? I don't know if they did. But
That's
a good one.
Is that Fox or is that CBS?
That's Fox.
I like that one. I love all the jingles. I like all the jingles. But Masters is probably too. I like when they start playing the Georgia song. If you know what I'm talking about, you've watched
Correct.
Masters, but it's good. By the way, I knew we were going to talk about this today, and Casey, I did send a clip, and unfortunately for the viewers on radio or listeners on the radio, you'll be unable to see this. But one of the more interesting storylines, in my opinion, this weekend is Brooks Koepka, and I'm sure Trace will have an opinion on this in a second. But Brooks Koepka is a guy that, he was offered $100 billion to go play for Liv, and he said, you know what, I'm going to go play for him. And when he does that, he got his brother a job over there too. His brother plays golf over there, and anybody really who wants to and has some sort of social media presence can go play on the Liv Tour for a decent amount of money. But he sold his soul, I guess you can somewhat say. And he went over there, and now everybody's kind of written him off on the PGA Tour side, except for when it comes to these majors, because I do think, for the most part, he usually shows up. And I would say a large majority of golf fans only care about 4 events all year long, and depending if it's a Ryder Cup year or not. And this is one of them. And I think Brooks Koepka is the same way. And he's come on various podcasts saying he doesn't really care, except for when it comes to these four tournaments. But Brooks Koepka has made it public that he hates playing with slow golfers. He likes to speed it up. He doesn't want to be out there all day. He wants just to get into the clubhouse as quick as possible. They have paired him, the Masters, with Brian Harman. Now, if nobody knows what Brian Harman is, and we can roll the tape here, Brian Harman is one of the slowest golfers on tour, him and Patrick Cantlay. This is how Brian Harman waggles before each shot he takes on the PGA Tour. Now, for the radio listeners, we're at 6 waggles, and he still has yet to hit a shot. We are now at 8 waggles, no shot. And this is how it is to play with him. It takes legit 45 seconds before he makes contact with a golf ball. That's miserable. I'm not a great golfer, but the one thing you can say is I swing the club in a decent amount of time. 13 waggles before a shot's preposterous. Absolutely preposterous. Brooks Koepka is going to hate it. Now, Trace did bring up a good point that Brooks Koepka played well the last time he played with somebody slow like Patrick Cantlay. So maybe that's time to bet on him. I'm going to mention my bets before Trace goes in his rant. I have $25 on Koepka at plus 2,000. I have 25 on Matsuyama plus 2,000. Those are my big bets. I also have 10 on Scheffler, 10 on Rory, 5 on Hovland, 5 on Harman, and 5 on Lowry. Those are my Masters picks. I love them all.
Yeah, I don't have a. You said I was going to go to rant. I don't have a huge take on the whole thing. I do think that the slow play gets overblown. Those guys are out there for a certain amount of time, regardless. And you know what? If you're playing well, it's hard to convince me that you're going to take that much longer than the next guy based off of. And listen, when you read putts on the green, if you're slow around the green, excuse me, then I agree with that. Patrick Cantlay is notoriously slow. I understand why you wouldn't want to be up on the green, watching a guy read a putt from 5 different angles and then finally putt the ball, end up missing it, and then tap it in. Of course, that's frustrating. But the waggles with Brian Harmon, I don't believe are that big of a deal, largely because he plays well most of the time. And you had mentioned, you don't take long to hit the ball. But if you got to hit the ball 4 times to hit it where he hit it once, that ultimately I don't think is that big of a difference. DeChambeau was accused of being very, very slow for a certain period of time, and then you obviously had the situation with Koepka and DeChambeau having an argument about that. I think that all that gets so overblown that it becomes a storyline because there are a few golfers out there that want to make it into something that it's not. It all comes down to, most of the time, how well guys are playing or how well they aren't. Last year, Patrick Cantlay was paired with Brooks Koepka. People had the same exact storyline. Brooks Koepka, it never became a storyline. Why? Because he played well. He ended up finishing second in the tournament. He had a chance to win, and it all was forgotten. So I don't really buy into all that. I will say, though, that there's one guy that it's just more of a lottery ticket that I think's a good lottery ticket to take is Justin Rose. I put a responsible amount, but more than I should have put on Justin Rose, if we're being honest. I put in what I like to call a cash-out bet on Justin Rose. Do I expect him to win the tournament? Probably not. But I think that there's a chance he's around on Sunday. And he's one of the guys that's a little older in age, hasn't played his best golf. I understand all that. But he has been very, very competitive at Augusta. And Augusta is one of the few courses, if not the only course, that's a major championship outside the Players that gets played at the same location every single year. So there are some learned kind of nuances that go into reading greens, knowing where you need to miss, all of those things. It matters. It 100% matters. It's exactly why guys like Freddie Couples, who's, again, the smoothest golf swing, the best golf swing maybe in the history of golf. But with all due respect to Freddie Couples, he's, I don't know at this point, pull up Freddie Couples' age for me. I don't want to be disrespectful, but I want to say he's like 90 years old, basically. And he finds a way with
64.
his yellow golf ball
64.
to make the cut. How old?
64.
64 years old. And he's out here making the cut. It's why Jack Nicklaus is able to win the golf tournament towards the end of his career. It's why, honestly, as crazy as it sounds, if you can convince me that Tiger Woods was healthy enough to walk the course 4 days in a row, I think that he could have competed until he was 55, 60 years old at this course specifically, because ultimately at the end of the day, it's a second shot course. I know people are going to, there are going to be arguments about what type of course it is. It's a second shot course. And on your second shot, the most important thing usually, if you know where your ball is going to go, is usually knowing where to land the ball, knowing where the pin placements are. It's the same thing year in and year out, which is why I think the Masters has become, quite honestly, the best viewing experience that comes with golf. It's because you know what to expect. There is some semblance of understanding what the course has to offer. When you come around Amen's Corner, when you get towards the back, you get to hole 16, for instance, everybody knows. They reflect back on not the Tiger Woods chip in, yes, but all of the hole-in-ones that start at the top of the hill and rolls all the way back down. But I stand the chance to win, I think, $20,000 if Justin Rose wins the tournament.
That's a big number. And by the way, what are your thoughts on Scotty Scheffler? I've been thinking about Scotty Scheffler for a while now. I don't think Scotty. Listen, I like Scotty Scheffler. I respect it that the streak he had where he didn't make a bogey in 100 million holes. I think he's a great golfer and he's going to be great for a long time. But for this course specifically, he's plus 450 to win this tournament.
Who's that?
Scotty Scheffler. plus
Yes,
450, which is low.
which is significantly.
I'm going to tell you the last several winners here, what their odds were. John Rahm was 9-1 in last year.
Plus 900 for those that aren't really gamblers.
2022, Scotty Scheffler 16-1.
Yep, plus 1600.
Hideki was 46-1 in 2021.
So 4600.
17-2 was Dustin Johnson, so he was pretty favored.
Yep.
Tiger was 14-1 in 19. Reed was 50-1 in 18. Garcia 30-1 in 17. A big odds guy usually wins this tournament. So that's what you got to remember before you lay some financial dollars on Scotty Scheffler plus 450.
And Jolly brings up an excellent point that really doesn't get talked about probably enough. And Jolly's he's in the broadcast world, so they pay attention to these things more often than not. But if you have never watched Sunday at Augusta, in regards to just the cinema that they're able to provide, CBS, and again, really, Fox has gotten significantly better, too, in regards to their coverage of NFL football. Like, I used to think that CBS had the best graphic packages and it looked the best, and then all of a sudden now I think I err on the side of Fox. But they've all become so competitive and they're so good at what they do that it's really null void. In fact, I know I'm not just saying this because Jolly's there, but I've watched a few NASCAR events now just because that we had that opportunity, and just the sheer ridiculousness that goes into a NASCAR race in the broadcast is mind-boggling. I don't know how. I mean, I don't want to suggest I don't know how they do it, but I am going to suggest that it's like it takes decades of people that are dedicating their lives to make these broadcasts enjoyable, to be excellent at their jobs, to get to where they are now. There's Jolly mentioned the point. There's 4 minutes of ads per hour during the tournament. In the Masters, I believe, pay CBS to make sure they don't have a lot of ads during their tournament.
Yeah, that's insane.
And it makes for a better viewing experience. People, and believe it or not, rather watch golf than watch ads, which is quite honestly the issue that comes with a lot of these tournaments now. You get to see like 5 golf shots, and then they throw it to commercial on the Golf Channel. But that's here nor there. I won't get into that rant today. But Justin Rose, that's my dark horse. I think that there is a bet that cannot lose. It's got bad odds though.
Yeah, it's got the worst odds of all time.
I'm half tempted to take my entire account just to make a couple $100. I need you to convince me out of it. I need the chat to tell me not to do it. In fact, we'll make the poll question of the day. Casey, you ready?
Yep.
Should Trace do this? Yes or no? Should Trace make the Rory bet? Here's the bet: minus $1,100 for Rory to make the cut. Rory McIlroy is another guy that has been at this course year in and year out and has had some success. He's not won, but I'm going to bet on him to win, yes, because I do think that over time Rory is going to win a Masters. And the other thing I would say is there's no chance he's going to miss the cut 2 years in a row. No chance. It's free money.
So should Trace make the bet that
Should Trace put his entire account on Rory to make the cut?
Okay.
I don't think you should do that. I think that's a bad bet. Not only because he's never won it, and B,
some would say it's a free $200 that I could get.
I would
similar
say
to maybe
this
the
is
free
the worst-
$200 you could have gotten if you said that Brad Stevens wasn't going to be the head coach
This
of
is
the
the worst.
University of Kentucky.
This is the worst course he plays at. So this is the worst he performs at a major. So
Kentucky meeting with Scott Drew today, by the way, Trace.
Scott Drew's obviously going to take that job.
So,
But go ahead.
So your insider info was.
I would not make the bet. There is nothing for you to gain on this. I would take the opposite side if you do it. I imagine it's like plus 600 for him to miss, somewhere around there. That's what I would do instead, and you'd win more money doing that.
DraftKings has a boost right now.
Oh,
Scotty Scheffler, Rahm,
Yep.
Hideki, and DJ all to make the cut. Even money. Even money, plus 100. Last 4 winners, all to make the cut.
Yeah, and the other thing too. Listen, I looked down at my phone. I got like 1,000 texts, and one of them's from my brother, and he said Ricky Fowler. Ricky Fowler. I would love nothing more than Ricky Fowler to win the Masters. Like that would be an all-time. In fact, as ridiculous as this is, of all of the things that have happened in my sporting life, Ricky Fowler to win the Masters would probably be like top 3. Like I've been rooting for this guy largely, if we're being honest, because he has the same last name. Yeah, it's kind of cool to see your name, your specific last name, at the top of a leaderboard. Nothing would be cooler than to see Masters champion or whatever it may be with the name on the top of the leaderboard. And you know what? Is that going to happen? I just don't think it is. I don't think it is. I will put a little money on it though, because that's just what I do, and I've wasted more money in my life on nothing else. You know, some people think that, you know, buying cartons of cigarettes is a waste of money. Some people think maybe going to the convenience store and getting knick-knack things all the time is a waste of money. Some people think that when you're in the checkout aisle and they got all of the things that you can pick up along the way before you check out, that you're just standing there waiting in line, they're trying to get you to have an impulse buy, is wasting money. Nothing, and I tell you, nothing has been a bigger waste of money than me betting on Ricky Fowler to win major championships in my entire life.
Yeah, it's a tough one to do. He's never won one, right? It's just the Players.
Zero.
The Players was the biggest one he won.
Correct.
So shout out to Ricky. I like Ricky.
But maybe he'll win it. So I'll be in his corner. I'm not turning my back on him now. But you have a dark horse, Reed?
Oh, no.
Here's what my favorite thing to do is, well, maybe not favorite thing to do. What I would like for you to do, though, because this is how this works, is that, you know, you think you know a lot about college basketball, and then your significant other or someone in your family, maybe it's your parents, they don't ever watch any sports at all. They fill out their March Madness bracket. And we all inevitably know what happens.
People forget that I won the bracket challenge from the employees, from people that work at Chatterbox. I finished like 5th overall.
Point is, though, is the one that's least knowledgeable usually wins. I would like for you to just look at some random names on there, and you just throw one that just points out to you.
I will not sit down and watch a second of the Masters unless two things happen. One of two things has to happen. One, Tiger Woods has to be in contention. I'll sit down and I'll watch that. The other one is for some reason I go to my brother's house this weekend because he always has golf on. Oh, that's the only time I ever watch golf is when I go to my brother's, because that's all he watches. He just watches golf all the time. I'm looking at it right now. What's funny is my group chat of friends. They do we do a little draft where we take players, and whoever does the best out of like the 5 players you do wins this little challenge. And I'm currently doing that in my group chat right now.
Yes.
So I literally just look at betting odds and just pick whoever's the best available. As I'm looking around, give me Cam Young. Cam Young.
You know anything about Cam Young?
Not a thing. His name's Cameron. His surname's Young.
Yeah. I actually like Cam Young. Cam Young has the firepower to win the Masters if he plays well. That's the crazy thing about this tournament, is you genuinely could go down the list of names, and it could be almost all, not everybody.
I think most people. I think there's
but there's a significant amount. The crazy thing is, though, as we all know, plus 450 makes me feel like if we're being completely honest, you should just take Scheffler. You should just take him. It's terrible odds. It's horrific odds. It's like saying that, you know what, we're gonna bet on a guy to hit a home run today. He's plus 125. I don't know, but I will say this: the closest thing that golf has seen since Tiger Woods is Scotty Scheffler. That is a fact. If Scotty Scheffler could putt even just a little bit, he is without question so much far and above and beyond better than everybody else. It's not even close. Scotty Scheffler, as long as nothing crazy happens, will be at the top of the leaderboard. He'll be within the top 10. The question ultimately will come down to whether or not he can make putts. And if he can make putts, he might run away with it. And you'll be wishing, just like you did with UConn, just like I did with UConn. I wish I would have just, of course, after the fact, done it. But we all seen what was going to happen with UConn. Yeah. We knew it was coming. You looked at us on that show on Monday, and you said, how do you not bet on UConn? They're blowing everybody out. They're only giving 6 points to Purdue. And you're like, I don't know. He's like, it seems too good to be true. It might seem too good to be true with Scotty Scheffler.
That's why I put something on it. I put something on it as an insurance. We have a super chat from Justin. He says Thigala.
Thigala, yeah. Listen, they're all good, but I'm not sold on Thigala.
I think there's 88 guys that are in this field. I think legitimately 44 of them can win this tournament.
I don't know who's going to ride this bet with me, but I'm going to give you Justin Rose Masters results here, and you tell me if you like this. Give me one moment as I get to them. But do you have anybody else on there in your mind that sticks out to you?
Shane Lowry was one I thought. I think Shane Lowry is pretty damn good when it comes to majors, so I liked him to make top 10. I have a lot of these guys to make in the top 10 as well. I have Justin Thomas to miss the cut. I have Jordan Spieth to miss the cut. Just some popular names that I always usually try to bet on,
right.
And it never goes my way, so now I'm just betting against them. Outside of that, I was trying to think. There's Hideki's going to win. I love Hideki Matsuyama. I love him. One of the more iconic shots in golf history is when he bowed to the course, when his caddy bowed to the Masters course after winning the tournament. One of my favorite shots of all time. Other than that, no, I don't believe in Dustin Johnson whatsoever. I'm not going to believe in John Rahm, whatsoever. I think they can certainly win it, but I'm not going to be on their side of it. I'm not going to do that. Cameron Smith is another one. You said Cam Young. Cam Smith is a guy that I like. There's a couple live guys that I really like.
Brooks
Joaquin
Koepka, I
Neiman?
think, is the most overrated of them all. I don't know what it is about it.
6 majors, right?
No, I know that, but I just think that there's a chance where his game's not where it needs to be. But he's done this before. I've said this about him before, to be fair. I did not think that he was going to finish second in the Masters a few short years ago, so shout out to him for that. But Justin Rose, he did miss the cut. 2023, he was hurt. 2022, he did miss the cut. But 21, he was 7th, 23rd, 12th, 2nd, 10th, 2nd, 14th, 25th, 8th, 11th. That's all the way back, I know, to 2011. So at this point, it's a moot point. Once you get back to the 2010s, I don't think it relatively matters where you finish. So, we'll see. All I need, just say a little prayer. I don't need him to win. I'm not being greedy. I just need him to be in like the top 10, that maybe within 2 shots of the lead on the start of the round on Sunday. And I think the cash out's going to be so great that I'm just going to just rinse my hands and get out of there.
Yeah.
That's the goal. We shall find out. But that is going to do it on this show of 1410. You think we have another segment on 1410? We got to figure this out.
We do, Casey, right?
Yep, we got one more.
We got one more.
Did we start? We started the show late.
We started the show late, correct. And we took a longer than usual conversation at the halftime break. So we got one more segment on 1410 Wing AM.
Right after this. All right. I'm going to need a counter. I'm going to need a counter from now on.
I have the counter.
Yeah, but something that's visible to me. I'm glad that you wrote it over there on your Post-it note. That's all good and well, but that doesn't help me out by knowing how many segments we've done on the radio. My brain at this point is I don't know if it's what do they call that, like morphous or metamorphosis or whatever that term is. You hang around somebody, you hang around people long enough, it starts to rub off on you. I am concerned, Elliot. We spent a lot of time together.
Yeah.
I'm starting to worry about the brain cells that I have. They're just starting to leave the body. And perhaps you're picking up on a few of them, but I am a little worried that your third base situation that you had yesterday and where your brain is right now,
it's contagious.
It's contagious. I might be in the same. I don't have as good of an excuse as you, but I might be in the same ballpark as you on today's show in regards to brain cells.
Yeah, it's tough. Listen, you got to power through it. It's what's today's day? Wednesday. Wow.
April 10th, if you're keeping track at home.
April 10th. What a day April 10th is. Listen, sometimes you have it, sometimes you don't have it. Sometimes your brain's there, sometimes it's not. Tonight, it's just not there. Today. It's today. It's not tonight.
Today.
It's today. Morning. It's not tonight. Lindsay, why don't you give us a curse word and get us right back
What's
on track?
What's your favorite curse word, Lindsay?
All right.
Bengals time. We got 8 minutes for the rest of our lives talking about the Bengals. So we're gonna let Reed and Casey shine here.
Are you? Yeah. Well, listen. Casey brought up an excellent point today that I'm going to let him eloquently state. But he looked at me today and he said the Bengals are only 2 teams in the entire NFL that have this going with the franchise tag currently. And you know what's funny about the Bengals, as I turn it over to the Bengal boys, is this. The Bengals always find themselves trying to be like the yin of the yang. Like they're always trying to take the opposite approach. They don't trade players. They tell players that we're not basically going to trade you, and no matter what, under any circumstance. That has changed a little bit since this. Who gets more credit, the sisters or Duke Thompson?
Duke Tobin?
Dick Tubin, my bad.
Both. I mean, it's the.
Who is it?
Blackburn
I don't know. That was a hard question, but who
The
is
Blackburn
it?
sisters.
Who are you giving credit to?
For roster construction, Duke Tobin. For the general change of the atmosphere of the team, definitely the Blackburn sisters.
All right,
Katie
sisters.
Blackburn
The sisters. You're giving the credit to the sisters. Then.
Yep.
Okay. Casey, that, and then tell me your fun fact of the day.
Well, the fun fact was, Trace, that everyone that was tagged this season has had 2 things happen to them. They either have been A, extended, or B, traded. And one of the only teams in the NFL, besides the Bengals, that have not done that, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and their safety, Antoine Winfield Jr., they're working on a deal that will make him the highest paid safety in the NFL. And so basically, I'm just coming back around to this topic once again. Are the Bengals making a mistake? Because every other team in the NFL either has done one thing or the other, while the Bengals are just kind of sitting on their hands. They're just going to let things happen again, kind of not learning from their mistakes with Jesse Bates.
Is it a mistake for what happened with Jesse Bates?
Do you not think it was a mistake?
Well, we are.
I mean, we
here
were one of the
sitting-
worst defenses in the league
We're
last
here
year.
sitting a year later, and Jesse Bates is going to be making more money than our entire safety room. And we just signed Victor Stone, who was second in the NFL in interceptions last year, along with two very young safeties that are getting better. And then we brought in Von Bell for the league minimum. So I would say, no, that wasn't a mistake. Listen, you can't be afraid to go against the grain. You can't be afraid to do what other teams aren't doing. Like, if we all followed suit, right? If we all followed suit, you're just a sheep, right? If all the other teams, would any other team other than Kansas City Chiefs trade Tyreek Hill? No one would. And what has happened since they've traded Tyreek Hill? They've won 2 Super Bowls. You can't be afraid to be the complete opposite of what every other team does. You can't be afraid of that. And I got to ask the question about T. Higgins. What were we supposed to do? Like, do you want to sign T. Higgins to an extension? No.
No, I want them to trade him.
Trade him with the price is right. Maybe the price isn't right. So we'll ride with T. Higgins for another year. We'll draft him. I'm not worried about the T. Higgins situation. Whatever happens other than extending him, I'm cool with. I'm cool with it.
Well, I'm already past the situation of that they should trade him. I mean, they've already made the mistake at this point. It's too late. The market's already been set. The market's already it's been done. They should have done it way earlier on. Sorry, he distracted me. He dropped his ring and just made a huge loud noise. Anyway, sorry. The thing with the T. Higgins conversation that bugs me is that they're going to make the same mistake again. It is a mistake because would you rather have a bunch of average dudes filling in that, or would you rather have a top 3 guy at your position? Because, yes, Geno Stone led the league in interception. You know who was right behind him? Jesse Bates. You want to know who had double the amount of tackles?
Would you rather pay Jesse Bates $18 million or
would you rather have Jesse Bates, who had double the amount of tackles that Geno Stone did, who's a way better leader, who knows our system? I think I would. And let's be clear here. If they get Jesse Bates, that third pick frees up, and guess who they really needed last year? A guy named DeJuan Jones who fell to the 4th round. And now we have a whole different conversation about how our roster looks. So I'm just saying, I think it was a mistake. Our defense was one of the worst in the league. The so-called safeties that are getting better were one of the worst safety duos in all the league. And I'll give you a little pass on the Nick Scott thing because he's gone now, and that was a big reason why. But as of right now, Dax Hill has no position on the team.
He can be flexible. Listen, the safety position is so. It's the least important position on the defensive side of the ball.
Okay,
and we're going to give a guy $18 million to play that position.
But
the
you're
Jesse
missing.
Bates
You're
thing
missing
is
the
done.
point. You're missing
the
the
T.
point.
Higgins thing is quantifiable.
Yeah,
right?
and then they're making that
if
same
he walks
mistake
out the
again.
door next year, then it is what it is. But here's I'm not worried about the T. Higgins situation because there's a flood of wide receiver talent coming in the league. And I'm not willing to give T. Higgins, who at this moment, might not be a top 20 wide receiver. I'm not willing to give him top 10 wide receiver money.
Well, I'm not suggesting that either, but I'm saying they already made the mistake. That's why I brought it up, is that they already made the mistake by not trading him. They've already gone down this road once, didn't get value off of Jesse Bates. Look where they're at now.
And also, Jesse Bates played in the NFC South. Do you think he puts up the same numbers in the AFC North?
Maybe. I don't know.
Probably.
I mean, it's not. You can't really.
Geno Stone
Is that
put up
because-
those numbers in the AFC.
Is that because Kenny Pickett and who the Browns quarterback at this point? I don't even remember.
Joe Flacco?
It was Joe Flacco towards the end.
Is it because those guys are just really elite level quarterbacks and Jake Browning was elite level quarterback last
Every
year?
team in the AFC North finished above 500. I don't know if you heard that before.
I
it's the first time that's happened.
I didn't know safeties had to go against other defenses. I didn't know that Geno Stone.
Lamar
went against,
Jackson
I didn't know
was-
Geno Stone went against T.J. Watt. I never knew that.
Yeah, well, here's
Interesting.
the thing.
I didn't know he went against the Browns defense. Never heard of that one before.
Oh, so you're so?
I'm just suggesting the offenses. The offenses in the AFC North aren't something I would be really what's the term to use? Calling home to the parents about. I wouldn't be doing that. Just saying.
Riding home.
Riding home. Thank you, Casey.
Let's
as my
see.
brain is mush today.
Let's see.
Well, I'm not. You're going to sit here and give me some statistic. All these guys. Go ahead. You just figure out some statistic that makes your point look valid.
Ranked 32nd out of 32 teams in the NFC South, the Carolina Panthers. The Atlanta. Well, he played on the Falcons, so I can't use that one. Who
Right.
else do we got? The Tampa Bay Buccaneers
Yeah.
finished 18th out of 32.
Pretty good. Where'd the Bengals finish?
Above them.
All right.
In fact, every team in the AFC North finished above the Tampa Bay Buccaneers other than the Steelers. Anything else, Trace?
Well, I'm just
You
saying.
want to push
I'm
against me that the NFC North was better than the AFC
Well,
North offensively?
I'll let Casey continue to spit fire here. I'm just going to suggest to you, though, you're making fun of the fact that Jesse Bates left
Jesse
the Bengals.
Bates is
Jesse
a
Bates.
safety.
Let's make it like, I know this is a simpleton conversation that I'm getting ready to suggest, but I'm just saying Jesse Bates left the team. Their defense became trash. Jesse Bates went to a team. Their defense was great. I don't know. Coincidental, I'm sure.
The football math makes sense there to me, Trace. Listen, let's not try to tear down Jesse Bates. Jesse Bates is a top 3 safety in the league.
That's the point.
And
It's a
and
safety.
what's the difference if
You took it. Did you take a safety in the first round?
Yeah, that's basically what we
You
did.
know what are we really
Like,
talking
what-
about?
Yeah, with the 31st pick.
Oh shit! I mean,
Oh,
come
not
on.
another
I'm
one.
just saying. You can't sit here and suggest that the Bengals like.
Also,
you can't-
defensive points given up last year. Atlanta Falcons, they gave up 21.9 points. That's good for 19th in the league. Bengals, 22.6, good for 21st in the league. The defenses weren't that much different, and we were playing against much better teams. What are we talking about? What are we talking about? You guys, just because Jesse Bates is a star safety, the position that matters the least on the defensive side of the ball. Do we want to start franchise tagging guards?
You're missing.
Is that what we're doing? Let's start franchise tagging fullbacks. Let's give $30 million to the next fullback that walks through the Bengals front office.
You're missing the whole point of the argument. It's not about Jesse Bates anymore. It's not about Jesse Bates. It's about, will they do the same thing with T. Higgins? And if they do, it's a mistake.
Why?
Why?
We can get wide receivers in the draft.
When are you going to get a receiver in this draft? I'm just curious. When do you want to pick one?
Second.
You want to get one in the second round? Okay.
Same round we got T. Higgins.
So when are you going to address the defensive line? When are you going to get that backup corner? When are you going to get the tight end? I mean, there's so many holes on this roster already. Like, we're really going to just cycle
we got one hole on
again.
the roster. Got 21 starters solved. We got one starter to find.
Okay. All right. Well, we'll see if the Bengals think the same way that you do, because I don't know if they go receiver in the second round, especially with the news about T'Vondre Sweat. And that defensive tackle market just got a lot worse now in terms of the draft. I don't know.
We just got to get them a ride to the field. That's all we got.
Well, I had seen someone had suggested as we wrap up the show here on 1410 Wing AM. I had seen that someone had suggested the Bengals might wouldn't look past getting another defensive end. Well, just draft another one in the first round. Eventually, it's like the tackles and the guards. At some point, you just keep drafting them the first round. You're going to get them. You'll get one of them. They'll work out.
I believe in Miles Murphy. He's a little baby. He's only 21
That's
years
right.
old.
Yeah, he's a little baby. Go ahead and do it. Do it.
Sometimes when you get to be a professional athlete, you just get called a little baby boy. And sometimes you're just a little baby boy, you can't do anything, and you get in limited years. And by the time you're not a little baby boy, you're bad, and then nobody can say anything anymore. But then you have already a next baby boy, and then that baby boy has a lot of time until the next one. And then eventually you're just wrong.
Yeah,
but we have to keep acting like you're
eventually
right.
25 years goes by and you've never won a playoff series and you never won a Super Bowl. But you always have next year. That's the beautiful thing.
That's how we end on a positive note right there.
Until you don't.
I mean, what are we doing?
Because at some point, you won't have next year. All right. That's been it for Off the
to win a
Bench.
Super Bowl.
Presented by United Dairy Farmers. We appreciate you listening. We'll be back better than ever tomorrow on 1410 Wing AM. Enjoy. Kenner and Kev, take it away.
All right, Casey. I believe Trace's curse word happened with 4 minutes left in that last segment. Lindsay's curse word happened with about a minute left in that segment.
Kirby
Casey.
is already clipped up.
Segment 4.
Her curse words.
Segment
Put
4.
it in the Discord.
4 and 6. Did you really?
No,
I didn't.
Casey.
My bad.
Oh,
I mean,
It was
Kirby.
Oh.
Casey, is there any chance that the Bengals could do something with what do you want them to do with T. Higgins? Like, what's the value that you think you're going to get in return?
No. It's too late, is what I was getting at. It's too late to get any value from him. That's already
Is that
pretty much
because
been
is that
laid out in
because
front
of Diggs? You think that because Diggs got traded? Do you think? I'm just saying,
I
Diggs
mean,
got traded to the Texans, and let's be honest, I don't really think there was a ton of value there.
It could be because of that. I think the Bengals value T. Higgins too much. Like Reed said, he might not even be a top 20 receiver. But your time to get your value was before any of the trades, really before free agency, to be honest with you, before it really started getting into full swing. When he demanded a trade, that was probably too late at that point. But it is what it is now. I mean, we're going to be doing the same thing again where T. Higgins is going to walk out this door next year for no value. And the replacement unknown at this moment.
If we got a third-round pick for T. Higgins, would you trade it?
Their plan for Jesse Bates does not give me a lot of confidence that they're going to have a good plan for T. Higgins. That's my point.
I just like at this moment, I don't know what you like. The best course of action is with what we have with T. Higgins is that he plays on his $20 million contract, and that's probably where you get the most value out of him. If you can't get a second-round pick, I'd rather just play with T. Higgins.
You'd rather just play with T. Higgins if you got a second-round pick?
If someone gave us a second-round pick, I'd trade T. Higgins in a heartbeat. But if no one's offering a second-round pick, I'd just play T. Higgins for you.
I mean, I agree with you. I agree. I would do a second-round pick and maybe like a extra fifth or something like that. Give me something to where I have multiple picks so I can use that to trade up if I want to or trade back, either one. But, yeah, I mean, I agree. A second-round pick for me would be great. I would feel comfortable in getting whatever top receiver was available in the second round. I don't think you're going to get something in the second round this year.
Here's the thing about receiver. Here's the thing about receiver, and I've been talking about this for a while about the value of a wide receiver in the National Football League. If you look at what other teams are doing, look at like what Jim Harbaugh did with the Chargers. He gets in their front office and he says, "Listen, we've got to cut ties with some people. We've got 2-star wide receivers. We got two-star pass rushers." He took the pass rushers and traded away the wide receivers. That shows me, and again with what the Kansas City Chiefs have done, shows me that the value of wide receiver is on teams that want to win is going down. The value of a wide receiver.
Jolly asked a good question. When do they become the new running back?
It's becoming that.
I can't wait for the NFL to be what the NFL is going to literally end up being like. Nobody's valuable at all. Just the center, the guards, the tackles, and the quarterback. Outside of that, nobody else matters.
Your value is how hard you are to replace. That's your value. That's why quarterbacks get paid what they are paid, because when you got an elite quarterback, that's so hard to find.
Do you think it's fair though? Like, this is a genuine question. I'm not trolling it at any point though. Like, I'm being serious. Don't you think that the analytics catch up at some point? Don't you think at some point it's like, oh yeah, well look at the analytical equation says that if
is this
the
an
difference?
analytics
No,
thing?
listen. Let me
analytics
finish.
thing?
The difference between Jamar Chase and Devontae Adams is really not that big of a deal. It's small, but is it when Jamar Chase catches a pass that no one else can catch in the AFC Championship game that allows you to win? Is it when maybe there's one kicker that is just statistically just a smidge better? Just what you would call maybe the difference between being one play away from winning the Super Bowl and not one play away from winning the Super Bowl.
I don't think
one way. I'm just saying, at some point, that's the difference in sports. It's not just going to be some analytical math equation that says, hey, you can do it for less money. Who cares about money? Who cares about how efficient you are? Who cares about any of it? If you're the Rams right now, do you think they give a holy damn that they were the most efficient, effective team? Or do you think that the Browns or whoever else, like everyone wants to make fun of the Browns. I'm just saying, everyone wants to make fun of the Browns and how bad they are cap-wise. And you know what? They are bad. But again, if they had a quarterback that they tried to fix a hole in and they went and won a Super Bowl last year, no one would ever talk about it again. I'm
People make
saying
fun of- people
at
make fun
some
of the Browns 'cause they
point,
lose
at
all the
some
time.
point though, it can't always just be that you want to be the most efficient and effective. You got to make a stance on saying this is what we are. This is who we're going to be. We might overpay in this area because we think that it's going to be the difference.
Let me
that's-
help
like,
Trace's
I-
argument here for a second. At
I don't
some
even know what
point,
he's arguing.
At some point, you have to have stars
I'm
make
saying
plays.
you're sitting here suggesting that Geno Stone's just as good as Bates because
Yeah, 'cause
you
he had-
saved a bunch of money. Who cares? Who cares if you save money? You're not spending it all. You're not spending it all. It's going to waste. So it's like literally sitting here bragging that you're rich. You got a bunch of money in the bank, but you don't know the code or you don't know the PIN number to get the money out. It's irrelevant.
Yeah, and the thing is too.
Now
Who was
people are gonna get mad.
Who was the safety that actually sent us to the Super Bowl? Think about that one for a second, because Von Bell caught the interception, but who was the guy that actually tipped it to Von Bell? Jesse Bates. That's the guy that sent us to the Super Bowl.
Guys,
That's the guy that makes plays for us. And we didn't have him last year. And what happens? We don't make a stop for freaking whatchamacallit, the Pittsburgh Steelers scampering down for 80 yards. Like what?
And Kyle Schwarber and stuff like that.
Yeah, and you know what's funny about that? The Phillies were in the World Series. The Reds haven't won a playoff series in 25 years.
Sometimes you need stars to make plays. You
We have stars.
You can't have average talent. Just that's not going to get you anywhere.
Listen, I'm looking at the teams that win championships. I'm looking directly at the teams that win championships, and they put money in the areas that are incredibly hard to replace. That's where value comes in. The positions that are easy to replace throughout the history of the NFL, at least recent history, have been running back, have been safety, have been these positions that where you can go to somewhere and you might fall off a little bit, but you can make it up in other areas.
So to reel this back in, my question back to that would be: what have you accomplished and what have you garnered? What have you gained since you saved whatever it is that you saved from letting the best safety in the league go?
There's still money left on the Bengals cap, and if they don't spend it, on free agencies, the idea, at least from what I'm hearing, is that you start the clock on an extension to Jamar Chase, to where you can front load that extension a little bit.
And don't you think that so what you're arguing is that you think that Jamar Chase not overpaying, but paying a significant amount for him is the difference between getting over the hump and not?
I think that Jamar Chase is, and I know I just was arguing that wide receivers are slowly becoming running backs because of the flood of talent that's coming in.
Right.
You look across the league and almost every team has 2 wide receivers that are viable. That wasn't the case even 5 years ago. But I'm making the chase that the stance that once you get to an elite level of a player in these positions, these valuable positions at the moment, then you can overspend money.
I think there's a fundamental, and it's a fair debate. I think there's a fundamental disagreement on having windows and not having windows, because you don't want the Bengals to make a mistake to where they would be irrelevant or where they wouldn't be competitive over a long haul period of time.
I want to make the playoffs as many times as possible,
and that's fine.
with Joe Burrow.
But I would argue that I don't want to say you had, but you have a window of opportunity here where all it took was a little bit of money and trust that you might be able to hit on some back-end talent or some draft picks, quite frankly, to be able to fill the holes.
That's what it all comes down to.
To fill the holes that you wanted to. So we're arguing the same thing, but 2 different ways. I'm saying that, you know what, if you have something sometimes and you know what you have, I'm not letting that walk out the door. Because I drafted that, 1, and 2, they're familiar in our building. And the defensive coordinator came out and said it would be a dark day in hell if Von Bell and Jesse Bates leaves.
One of them's back,
and that's fair because you got lucky because he wasn't good enough to stick at the other place. And then they both left, and you have like literally the worst defense in the NFL. And all it took was money. That's all it took. But We're gonna save it because we can maybe pay pay Jamar Chase what he deserves because he's supposedly possibly gonna get you over the hump. I'm saying you have him
Championship
now. You
teams-
have him now. Why not just spend the money and try to keep together what got you to the Super Bowl?
Championship teams pay 4 positions. 4 positions. They pay the quarterback, they pay the pass catcher, they pay the pass protector, and they pay the pass rusher.
You
That's
just
where the money-
argued that the team that wins all the Super Bowls, Reed, traded their best. Arguably, in fact, I would say you could quite make the case they traded the best pass catcher in the entire NFL.
They kept the one that they wanted. They kept Travis Kelce.
Well, that's probably largely
Because they
but-
realized that wide receivers may be a little easier to replace.
And you're arguing that the money that we're going to save for Jesse Bates, we're going to give it to a pass catcher.
That's our elite pass catcher.
All right. Well, I'm just trying to figure out the logic, which is fair. I get what you're saying.
So you know the logic.
Well, I'm trying to figure out how you could, on one end, say that you want to save the money to give it to a pass catcher, but then on the other end, point to these teams that pay guys in certain spots, and one of the guys they decided to let go was arguably the best wide receiver in the NFL. And I would just like to think if you can solve a problem with money in the NFL, I would just do it. Especially if I was just in a window of opportunity to win a Super Bowl. Because you just never know. I don't know. You just never. This is my thing. This is the same stuff that I heard in Green Bay from time and time and time again. We don't need to draft a first-round wide receiver. You know why? We have Aaron Rodgers. He can fix it. We always just assume, and I say we, like I'm obviously not on the team really, but I'm just saying, like, you assume that you're going to be there forever, and then all of a sudden 15, 20 years goes by with this franchise quarterback, and you're looking back and you have one Super Bowl, and you're like, you know what? There was a small margin of time where they could have gone out and tried to fix the holes, and they could have. Saying you're going all in is probably not the right word, but you could push the envelope a little bit and say, you know what? We are going to extend ourselves out here a little bit. We're going to stick our neck out. We know we have maybe the best safety in the league. He's familiar with our defense. He's one of the leaders on our defense. I think it's crazy to sit there and suggest that it wasn't a mistake keeping Jesse Bates. That's all.
I like the between the money and the talent that we have. I like our safety room right now that I did 2 years ago, and I truly mean that from the bottom of my heart. Between Von Bell, Dax Hill, Jordan Battle, and Geno Stone, I like the safety room now. And by the way, you always bring up the Green Bay Packers. If the Bengals have the amount of opportunities that the Green Bay Packers had over Aaron Rodgers' career,
yeah,
that's a job well done by the front office.
And that's where
it's not my fault that not my fault that Aaron Rodgers wasn't very good.
Right. I mean, that's a fun shot that you took, and that's all good
He
and well.
made 6 conference championships.
But
That's a window. That's a championship window.
But the difference between winning a Super Bowl and not winning a Super Bowl, more times than not, as you might end up finding out, maybe you won't, is quite honestly the difference in having some elite level players at some positions that you could have gone out and got. It's as simple as that. I hate to be. Listen. It's like being the Tampa Bay Rays of the NFL. Is I don't think that's the answer. Could be wrong. I'd rather be the Marlins of Major League Baseball in the NFL. I'd rather say, hey, we're going to go all in. We might have to hopefully hit on some draft picks on the back end and be bad for 2 years, but then we'll be back after that.
I mean, the Miami Marlins really didn't do anything. I mean, both of their championships was homegrown guys, and then they went and got like one guy. Like they got Pudge in 2003. And then they traded all of them away after they won. You always talk about like big market versus small market in the MLB, about how you say like everyone says that you can do it as a small market because of what the Kansas City Royals done, and you're like, that's one time. You can make the same argument for the NFL and going all in.
I'm about to blow.
Only one team has gone all in and won a championship.
I'm about to blow.
Only
Reed's
one
mind.
team has won a championship with a mediocre quarterback in the past 20 years.
Did you know, Reed, that Justin Reed, the Kansas City safety, one of them, makes more than Jesse Bates?
Really?
Oh, he just won a Super Bowl.
Really?
It's like they pay the position.
Yeah, they just traded away. They just traded away their star cornerback too.
Yeah, so you're proving my point that they pay the safety and they traded away a corner. Like what's the difference?
Don't you think there's some logic in just saying if you have one of if not the best player in the entire NFL at any position, almost any position, it's a very big advantage. Like the 49ers, the reason they were damn good is because their linebackers are that much better than everybody else's. I would argue that the Ravens defense got considerably better when they brought over Roquan Smith. Is linebacker a huge deal in the NFL? Is it one of the marquee positions? No, but I'll tell you this: if you put Fred Warner and Roquan Smith on the Bengals defense last year, I got news for you. It ain't going to be that bad of a defense. It's just not, because they're the best at their position. They're so far and above and beyond better at their position than everybody else. It makes a big difference. I would suggest if you have the best safety in the league or one of the best safety in the leagues, I don't give a damn what you say about anything else. It matters. That's an important position.
I guess time will tell, because I like
find out.
our safety room. I really do like our safety room at the moment.
All right, you guys are going to talk probably maybe a little bit more on this topic and others here in just a minute on Box Lunch. That is next. This has been maybe not the best version of Off the Bench, but the best one we could do for today. And we thank you for watching. But, as always, be back better than ever tomorrow from 10 to 12.
P.
Thought I was going to stop doing that. I'm going to try to mix that in at least once per show.
When 1 to 3 for all the radio.
But we don't have to do the one. That's why I do that. We don't have to do the 1 to 3 after the radio.
Right.
So I'm going to try to see if I can't figure out a way to do that while we're not on the radio. So then it won't have. We don't have to do that the goofy bit. But that'll do it from us. Have a lovely Wednesday. I just had to figure out what day it was. That's where I was at in my life. Have a lovely Wednesday. We'll see you tomorrow.